Amen. Today we're going to be talking about something you've heard of, the Nephilim, the demigods, and transhumans. And to me, they're all related terms. And I want to ask a very simple question. Is it even worth talking about? Is this a tangent? Is this just mere myth? Or is it a present concern? So I'm going to do something that's not usual. I usually give you lots of scriptures first. I'm not going to do that. I'll just show you a little bit, but then we're going to get to things that I think will stir some interest. What do you think? Who is this? Who is that? This is a hybrid. This is the hybrid. A hybrid is an offspring of cross-breeding or mixing two different entities together. This is a Bush Obama. Is this a lion or a tiger? Yeah, it's a liger. It's called a hybrid. It's genetically mixing two different species, but they're in the same kind. So the Bible talks about this genetic manipulation. The first instance of genetic engineering is in Genesis chapter 6. The Bible has something to say about everything. But I'm telling you, I'm not even going to get deep into it. I'm just going to touch on it, and we'll go through some of the examples. Genesis 6, chapter 6, verse 1. Now it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that sons of God, that's a term that means the direct creation of God, angels in this case, saw the daughters of men, and that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. Verse 4. And there were giants. Please say giants. Okay, this is not the offspring of natural, breeding of humans. The whole theory that it's the sons of Seth marrying evil women goes out the window because it does not produce giant offspring, and the word is Nephilim in the Hebrew. There were Nephilim on the earth in those days and also afterwards, so two periods of time. Before, in those days, Noah's days, and then afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men and they bore children to them, those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. In other words, it's a very bold claim in the Bible saying that something unique, strange happened, and the offspring, the hybrid that were produced, they're famous. You know about them, is what the Bible's saying, right? So it's a pretty bold claim that everybody already knows about that. How do we interpret that? You just go to the New Testament and let the Bible be its own commentary. Jude chapter 1, verse 6 to 7 from the New English Translation. Jude, the half-brother of Jesus, says, you also know, again, it's like a given, they say, if I say, you know who won the election, that means you know the results. In fact, right now, we still don't know the results. But if I said, you know, that means it's been reported. True? I wouldn't say you know who won the election unless you knew. It's common knowledge. So Jude says, you know that the angels who did not keep within their proper domain but abandoned their own place of residence, he has kept in eternal chains in utter darkness, locked up for the judgment of the great day. Verse 7, so also Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighboring towns, since they indulged in sexual immorality and pursued unnatural desire in a way similar to these angels, are now displayed as an example of suffering the punishment of eternal fire. So he makes a comparison, all right, that the sins of Sodom and Gomorrah are very much like the sins that the angels committed ages ago. Is it clear then that the sons of God who went into the daughters of men were the fallen angels? If it's not clear, you go to Jewish tradition, Enoch, the book of Enoch, which seems to be endorsed by Jude himself. He quotes it. And it used to be in the canon of Scripture, and I think in the Ethiopian version, either the Coptic or the Ethiopian, they still keep the book of Enoch in the Bible. So Enoch chapter 12, verse 4 and 5. Enoch, thou scribe of righteousness, go declare to the watchers of the heaven who have left the high heaven, the holy eternal place, and have defiled themselves with women, and have done as the children of earth do, and have taken unto themselves wives. Ye have wrought great destruction on the earth, and ye shall have no peace nor forgiveness of sin. That was the reaction from God. There's no forgiveness for this. You're going straight to the Abuso or Tartarus. And Daniel talks about these watchers. Daniel chapter 4, verse 17, the matter is by the decree of the watchers. So the watchers are the holy angels that came down, and they were the watchers over people. They watched over people. But Enoch says that 200 of them decided to rebel and create this genetic hybrid called the Nephilim. And Enoch goes on about it. Enoch chapter 15, verses 2 to 4. You can read all that yourselves. All right. So are they a tangent? Are they tangent or are they central to our life? In case you don't know, tangent is a geometry term. Here's a circle. There's the center of a circle, and the tangent is, any line that just touches it. It's not quite in the circle. It's certainly not center of the circle. It's just tangent. The tangent line touches the circle at a point called the tangent point. So is it just tangent or is it central? Well, I like to take things out to the big picture. And let's start from big and we'll go small, okay? We live in a place that God created called the solar system. There are presently 8 planets and 3 minor planets, 11 in total, 11 for the number of chaos. It's in the book, The Divine Code, from 1 to 2020. I explain all the different meanings of different numbers. There are 11 planetary bodies right now that we know in the solar system. We want to look at them. Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. Guess where it got its name from? The messenger God, the guide to the underworld, the son of Zeus and Maya. Who is he? He's a Nephilim. And when you look at the stars and stuff, it's really interesting how these ancients, they had all these names, and when you look at it and you compare it to the story of God, it's just amazing how many truths you can get out of it. For this one, I just point very quickly that Mercury is closest to the heat of the sun. And I personally hold the view that the sun is the lake of fire. And so Mercury is a very appropriate messenger to take people to the lake of fire because he's the one that's closest to it. The next planet is Venus. It's the hottest planet because it has an atmosphere. So Mercury is so close, the atmosphere is burned up. So it's not the hottest. Venus is the hottest. It's the only planet to spin in the reverse direction of the Earth. It's like the opposite of the Earth, and yet it's very close to the Earth. It's right next to us. Gets its name from the goddess of love, Venus. Who is she? Nephilim. And she's the subject of many pieces of artwork, like this one that you may have seen. So very appropriate. She's like the Earth, but she spins in the opposite direction of the Earth. It's like, man and women, often opposite. The Earth is the only planet that is not named after a Nephilim in our solar system. There's no consensus on how did we get the name the Earth, but I have a proposal. It sounds a lot like the Hebrew word Eretz. The word Eretz means land. It can mean Israel or it can mean the whole planet. Sounds like Eretz, doesn't it? And of course, the center of Eretz is Eretz, the Eretz of Israel. And this is a map from 1581. And of course, you know that the whole division of the world, we call it the eastern, east, the east, and the west. Well, what is that? Those are reference points from Israel. Now we have a better map, but the truth remains that if you live east of Israel, you're called an Easterner. You live west of Israel, you're called a Westerner. So everything points back to the central location of God's territory. God has claimed a very small piece of land for himself and his people. Is that interesting? And if you don't know, all languages point that way. So that's why that if you look at the ancient languages in the East, they write from right to left. But all the languages of the West write from left to right, because everything in the world points to the Messiah, points to his land, points to Israel. All right, so that explains a lot. Without a biblical worldview, you wouldn't get any of that. You wouldn't understand why things are the way they are. The next planet is called Mars. It's the red planet. It has a very big, deep scar across its surface. It looks like something catastrophic happened there. It looks like almost like there was a war there. All right, something happened. It's the red planet, the color of blood and of war. So, not surprisingly, it's named after this dude. He's the god of war. His name is Mars, and he's the son of Zeus and Hera, and he had twins. According to mythology, he had twins named Phobos and Deimos. He's a Nephilim, and guess what? When we look out into space and look at the planet Mars, Mars has two moons, and they're named Phobos and Deimos. Well, how did the ancient people know that Mars had two moons? We have a hard enough time looking for the planets. It's certainly difficult, if not impossible, to see the moons of these planets. You can see they're very irregularly shaped, very small. But just like in mythology, Mars had a twin. Also, the planet Mars has a twin. You find that interesting? Fascinating. The ancients knew a lot more than we give them credit for. Now, in between Mars and Jupiter, I just got to put this picture up. There's a thing called the asteroid belt, and it may be the remnants of a planet that exploded, maybe during the Luciferian fall, maybe during some other event. But something happened. It looked like a planet just exploded and left a trail of asteroid belts. And the largest asteroid in the asteroid belt has a name, Ceres. Ceres comprises 1/3 of the entire mass of the asteroid belt, and it is now considered a dwarf planet. It's the smallest of the dwarf planets. Well, where did we get that name from? By the way, that's what it looks like compared to the Earth and the Moon. It's about that size. Well, it's so interesting that NASA has sent the Dawn spacecraft to the asteroid belt, which is tasked with visiting the two largest asteroids. It's already visited Vesta from July 2011 to September 2012, and it's going to reach Ceres by February 2015. When NASA spends billions of dollars sending something to two rocks that nobody has heard of unless you study astronomy, all the conspiracy theories just start, buzzing around the internet. What is going on? Is there something going on Ceres that makes NASA so interested in it? Is it doing something? Is it kicking out asteroids towards us? Is there something going on? I don't know, but I know it's significant that NASA is sending this probe to go and circle this thing very soon. Ceres is named after this goddess, the goddess of the harvest, one of the wives of Zeus. She's the daughter of Cronus or Saturn and Rhea. Right? And she is a Nephilim. Next, we have Jupiter, called the king planet. It is the largest planet in the solar system, and it is about to go into the womb of Virgo very soon and stay there for 41 weeks, which is the normal period of gestation. Very interesting. The king planet is going to go into almost, into a perfect pregnancy term. That's from November 2016 to September 2017. Named after the god of the sky and the god of thunderbolt. He is the king of the gods. In mythology, he defeated Kronos or Saturn and the Titans, and he saved his siblings. So he's kind of a mixed metaphor representing both the second generation hybrid. There are many generations of the hybrid, and they map it out with a family tree. These guys who were very intelligent gave us, calculus and amazing, well, not calculus, Newton did that, but, amazing geometry and arithmetic and all this science. These people took the mythology of the gods very seriously. And their gods were not gods like we think of. Not a God that lives forever and, is impervious to pain and destruction. But these gods were jealous. They fought each other. They betrayed each other. They killed each other. And it's very much like the mythology of the Hindus. So something was going on the earth around that time, around the same time, where all these very intelligent civilizations recorded the same stories. So Jupiter is the main guy. And he also represents not only the hybrid, but he also represents the Son of God. The Son of God, because he defeats Saturn. Saturn sounds just like Satan, doesn't it? And so does Titan. All right, Saturn is a very beautiful planet, but its number tells us something ominous. It is the 6th planet. And you know 6 is not a good number. 6 is not a good number. 666, bad. You don't have to know much of the Bible. You know, hey, that's bad. Well, what is so bad about Saturn? He's a bad boy. There is a mysterious six-sided hexagon on its north pole. The hexagon is a symbol of the devil. 6 is a symbol of the devil. There's something really strange about this planet because a hexagon is not a naturally occurring shape in nature, and yet the 6 well-defined sides maintain shape even while rotating. Nobody can explain this, other than if we have a biblical worldview and we understand that the 6th planet represents Satan. Saturn sounds like Satan, represents him, and in fact his name comes from the betrayer of Uranus, Saturn. In other words, Satan, all right? The one who betrayed God. Uranus is the 7th planet. How about that? If you don't know anything about Uranus, you think 7's a good number? Yeah, number that God claims for himself. Uranus has some unique things. It's the first planet to be discovered because all the other planets I've mentioned before, they could see since ancient times. So it's the first one to be discovered in 1781 by William Herschel. I think that's interesting. It's kind of like God has hidden himself, waiting for those who are advanced, those who are intelligent, to discover him. It's a great metaphor, and he happens to be the 7th one. Nothing is by accident. Everything in this universe is a play, is a theater that represents God, that points back to his Son, Jesus Christ. It's the only planet that rolls instead of spins. Most planets go around the sun like a spinning top. But this cool dude rolls. And the rings are in a different, it's perpendicular to its orbital plane and the orbital plane of most other planets. It has no visible storm. It's made of water and ice, but has no visible storms. Certainly, they believe that, there's wind and things going on there, but it's a featureless planet. Named after Uranus, who is the father of Saturn, and in Greek mythology, the first ruler of the universe. So I believe that is the Greeks' way of calling Jehovah God, the Creator God. They gave him the name Uranus. Next to him is Neptune. Earth is obviously not anywhere near Neptune, but that's a size comparison. It's the 8th and the last planet that we have right now. 8th and last planet. This was seen by Galileo in 1612, but he didn't think it was a planet. Again, I don't know if I got the name mixed up here. You have to look it up, but this was discovered here, according to this, in 1781. Although it's similar to Uranus, Neptune's atmosphere is notable for its active and visible weather patterns, most notably its great dark spot. And you see there's a storm in the middle of Neptune, similar to the great red spot on the planet Jupiter. And where does it get its name from? The god Neptune, or Poseidon. That's the god of the oceans. Who is he? He's a Nephilim. Then we have Pluto, who used to be a planet, but because we found out he's only 20% of the Earth's diameter and only 0.2% of Earth's mass, he's in fact smaller than our moon, and yet he has his own moon named Charon. It was discovered in 1930, and Pluto is Hades. Hades means hell. It was demoted to a dwarf planet on August 24th, 2006. And I say to that, hallelujah. Hell got demoted in modern times. It is actually not a planet, but a binary system. They now call it a dwarf double planet. So if you could be on the surface of Pluto, this is probably what the sun looks like from Pluto, a very small, tiny speck. And its moon would be quite unusually large on the sky, in the sky. So interesting. And it's named after this god, Pluto or Hades, the god of hell or the god of the underworld. Who is he? He's a Nephilim, or I would in fact call him straight out a demon. His moon is Charon. Who is he? He's the ferryman of Hades, carrying wicked souls across the river Styx to hell. Who is he? He's a Nephilim, or it can be said he's a demon. Interesting thing, the spacecraft New Horizons is scheduled to fly by Pluto and Charon on the 14th of July, 2015, carrying an ounce of the cremated remains of Clyde Tombaugh, discoverer of the dwarf planet. The craft also contains a coin, a Florida state quarter, just as Greeks used to put a silver coin in the mouth of the dead. Because they believe that if you don't put a silver coin in the mouth of a dead person, then you haven't paid Charon for the ferry trip and the person won't make it across. So, do you think that Greek mythology is still influencing even supposedly smart people today? And I don't know what the fate of this guy is, because a resurrection is coming and an ounce of his body needs to be returned from the spacecraft New Horizons, because everybody else dies and stays on this planet. You know what I mean? Our resurrected bodies is composed of some of the molecules that used to be in us. Well, metaphorically, or you could say, I would say metaphorically, I find it fascinating that man will arrive in hell in 2015. And that happens to be the end of the war tetrad from 2014 to 15 that we've been studying. At the same time that the moon and the sun announces that there's a war tetrad, 4 blood moons consecutively on God's feast, at the same time, man reaches a place that man named hell, Pluto. Does that put goosebumps all over you or not? That is some strange happening in our time. Then they found another planet, but they don't call it a planet because it doesn't qualify, but they say it's the most massive dwarf planet. It's bigger than Pluto. It's the 9th most massive body revolving around the sun. It was discovered in 2005. It has 1 moon named Dysnomia. Okay, so Eris is the name, the moon is Dysnomia. What does that mean? Eris is the goddess of strife or discordia, and Eris had a daughter named Dysnomia, which means lawlessness. So the last thing man discovers is strife and lawlessness at the edges of hell. You think that's a metaphor for what we're about to go into as a world? Amazing, isn't it? Obviously, Eris, Discordia, and Dysnomia are both Nephilim. All right, so let me summarize them for you. For those who like charts and tables more than pictures. The first planet is Mercury, gets its name from the Roman god Mercury. The Greek version is Hermes, god of the underworld, Nephilim. Venus is the Roman god Venus. The Greek version is Aphrodite, goddess of love, Nephilim. Earth probably gets its name from Eretz, the only one that is not named after a Nephilim. Mars is the Roman god Mars. Greek version is Ares, god of war, Nephilim. Jupiter, Roman version, Jupiter, Greek name Zeus, god of sky, god of the thunderbolt, Nephilim. Saturn, named after Roman Saturn or Greek Kronos. Kronos was in some recent sci-fi movie. Father of Zeus. And identity, I would say that's Satan himself. Uranus, it's the Roman name of a Greek god, Uranus. Father of Saturn, first ruler of the world, that would be God. Neptune is Roman. The Greek version is Poseidon, god of the oceans, Nephilim. Pluto is Pluto or Hades, god of hell, that's a demon. Eris and Discordia in Rome. By the way, it's the only one that they seem to pick the Roman, they pick the Greek version instead of the Roman version. Eris, goddess of strife, Nephilim. So how about this? 9 out of our 11 planetary bodies are all named after Nephilim. Did you know that? Is this just a tangent, or is this something more? Then we come to our days. We name our days after the gods. Sunday is Sun Day. Monday is Moon Day. Tuesday is Twig's Day or Mars Day. Twig is the Norse version. Now we got another mythology, the Nordic or the Norse version of the same story. Mars Day, the god of war. So Tuesday is the day of war for some reason. Wednesday is Woden's Day or Mercury's Day, the god to the underworld. Thursday is Thor's day. Thor is the main god in the Norse mythology. So that's Jupiter, the god of the thunderbolt. In fact, the exact same symbolism. That's what Thor's day or Thursday is. Friday is Frigg's day or Venus day, the goddess of love. Saturday is Saturn's day, which refers to Satan, or depending on the European language, Sabbath day, which would refer to God. So here, for those who like tables, I give you different languages. Sunday or dimanche or domingo in French and Spanish refers to either God in the Latin languages or the sun in the Norse version. Identity is God. Monday, lundi in French, lunes in Spanish refers to the moon. They all refer to the moon. That's a goddess. Tuesday is mardi or martes, which is definitely Mars, the god of war. That's a Nephilim. So we got a day named after a Nephilim. Wednesday, mercredi in French or miércoles in Spanish, named after Mercury, Nephilim. Thursday is jeudi or jueves in Spanish. It's named after Jupiter. We just took Thor, the Nordic version of the same person. Friday is vendredi in French or viernes in Spanish, named after Venus, the goddess of love, Nephilim. Saturday, in the French and Spanish, they say samedi or sabato, which is actually from Sabbath, which is good. But we took Saturn, which is a Nephilim. So there you go. We name our days after the Nephilim. How about the months of the year? We got January to December. Where do we get these from? January is Janus's month. February is from Februa. March is from Mars. April is from Aphrodite. May is from Maya. June is from Juno. July is from Julius Caesar. August is from Augustus Caesar. September, October, November, December are actually just Latin numbers. 7, 8, 9, 10. So what are the meaning? Janus is a two-faced god of the gates. Two-faced. Why? Because in January, you're looking back to December and you're looking forward to the new year. It's a two-faced god. I learned that in high school English, by the way. Februa is a Roman festival of purification. Mars is obviously god of war, Ares. Aphrodite is the goddess of love, Venus. Maya was the daughter of Atlas, one of the 7 Pleiades. Juno is another name for Zeus's wife, Hera. Now, Julius Caesar is interesting because Julius Caesar is a real person, but his namesake is Jove's child or Jupiter's son. So it's still referring to Jupiter. And in English, we have this saying, by Jove. Have you ever heard that? By Jove. What is that? It's the old pagan way of saying, I swear. On oath. By Jove. By Jupiter, I swear. I'm telling you the truth. But, we as Christians would say, I swear by God, but you don't have to swear anymore because you're supposed to always tell the truth. So Jesus says, don't even swear by the temple anymore because you should let your yes be yes, your no be no. You should never lie anyway. So July still refers to one of the gods. August is Augustus Caesar. Augustus just means venerable, was a real person. And then the 7, why 7, even though it's the 9th month on the calendar? Because it refers to the 7th month on the Hebrew calendar, Tishri. Then the 8th month is Keshvan, 9th month is Kislev, 10th month is Tevet. So obviously these people knew the Hebrew months. All right. And the identity of these namesakes, January named after a Nephilim, March named after a Nephilim, April Nephilim, May Nephilim, June Nephilim, July an emperor whose name is from a Nephilim. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got 6 months out of 12 named after Nephilim. Are you getting what I'm trying to show you? People think that this is tangent. People think that the Bible mentions it, as a passing comment. But in fact, it's so much a part of our lives that we don't even know. Let's look at our periodic table of chemical elements. Cerium, named after Ceres, a Nephilim. Europium, named after Europa, the Phoenician girl that got raped by Zeus. That's a human. Helium. We use the word helium all the time, don't you? Helium is a Nephilim, is Helios, the Greek sun god. Mercury. In a thermometer, there's mercury. Well, that's the god Mercury, the guide to the underworld, the Nephilim who takes you to hell. Neptunium, named after Neptune, the god of the oceans, a Nephilim. Plutonium, now we're getting to space-age stuff. Plutonium, you can make a bomb out of plutonium. Guess what? Pluto, the guardian of hell, a demon. Apropos, isn't it? A plutonium bomb is named after hell. Promethium, named after Prometheus, a titan punished by Zeus, a Nephilim. Selenium, named after Selene, a titan moon goddess, Nephilim. Thorium, named after the Norse god Thor, god of thunderbolt, Nephilim. Titanium, you ever touched titanium, bought anything made of titanium, heard of titanium? Why is titanium so strong? Because it's named after Titan, the first generation of giants, Nephilim. And uranium. You know uranium, the stuff that's inside the atomic bomb? Named after Uranus, the first ruler of the universe. Most powerful thing that man's ever built or exploded is named after God. Is that interesting? All right. Let's come back to Earth. We have a North Atlantic and South Atlantic Ocean. Where is that from? It's from a god named Atlas. He's a titan. He lost the war against Zeus. He was condemned. Actually, Zeus condemned most of the titans to Tartarus, which is the center of hell, but made Atlas stand on Gaia, which is Earth, to hold up Uranus, sky, to separate them. He is either a Nephilim, or I imagine he might be a watcher, one of the angels that fell and then made it with the women. We have the Atlas Mountains. They range across Algeria, Morocco, and Tunisia. We have the myth of Atlantis, a mythical continent described by Plato, Solon, and Egyptian priests. This is a map by Athanasius Kircher in 1669, saying that there was a continent in between Europe and the Americas. It's described as an advanced civilization. Myth says that they came to attack Greece but met with tragedy because in one day it sank into the ocean. Named after the god of astronomy and navigation, the son of Iapetus, and Asia, a Nephilim. The continent Asia is the biggest continent in the world. It contains 30% of the landmass of the earth. It's the most populous continent. 4 billion people live there. In other words, 60% of humanity lives on Asia. Did any Asian know where the name Asia comes from? Yep, Nephilim. The wife of Iapetus, the mother of Atlas, Prometheus, and a bunch of others. She's the daughter of Oceanus and Tethys, the granddaughter of Uranus and Gaia. Nephilim. Europe, named after Europa, who was a Phoenician or an Arab mortal, a woman that was abducted to the Greek island of Crete and raped by Zeus. And you can see stamps and coins featuring this. This is not something in the ancient past. It's on their modern currency. And Europa gave birth to a bunch of Nephilim like Minos. If you ever go to Crete, Minos is the father of the Minoan civilization, a very advanced civilization that just appeared out of nowhere. How do you understand civilizations that build amazing architecture that lasts 3,000 years later? We can't even build a house that lasts for 10 years. The Bible worldview tells you these guys had help. They were hybrids, and they got advanced technology from the fallen angels. Then, if you go to Egypt, still there today, the Sphinx. What is that? It's a Nephilim. It's a human with a lion body and eagle wings. These Sphinx are not just the imagination of the Egyptians. They're everywhere. You can find the Sphinx in palaces of Darius the Great. That's a Persian in 480 BC. The oldest Sphinx is the lower left corner at a palace of Queen Hetepheres II. All of these things are hybrids, Nephilim. Egypt was ruled by hybrids. Queen Nefertiti's skull is always elongated. Shows you she was not fully human. She's a hybrid, Nephilim. The art from ancient Egypt shows giants with elongated heads worshiping Helio, the sun god, Nephilim. You go over to India and Southeast Asia, you find the most famous story, the Ramayana, depicts demigods Giants like the Yak, which appear in the art of Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Sri Lanka. Who are the Yaks? Nephilim. Ravana, the antagonist of Ramayana, abducted Rama's wife Sita and cut off the wings of Jatayu. Hinduism is replete with stories of demigods, human hybrids, and animal hybrids. How come they all talking about the same thing? The ancients cared about these demigods, but surely modern people have evolved beyond this cult of hybrid demigods. Surely we don't care about that anymore. Is that right? I'm going to answer that question in the next session.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. Can I be heard? Can I be heard? Look at that. Hey, them little gods, them little Nephilims, them little gods is everywhere. Everywhere. You dig? That is crazy. I got one more thing I want to show y'all. It ain't as long as that one. That was very well in depth and detailed about these so-called gods. If I can be heard, give me a Yahoo up in the chat. Y'all see this part 3 of the folly and sin of the heathen gods. The folly and sin of the heathen gods. All right. Man, everything, your constellations, your months, your days, the planets, man, look down to the very things you name it, certain things like plutonium and uranium and things made mercury, things made to make certain bombs and all that. Yeah, this thing's serious. Serious. Idolatry is way deeper than what people imagine. It's way deep. I got one more thing I want to show y'all. It ain't that long. And then we're going to get it in. All right. Bless up. Good to see y'all in the building. Bless up. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. All right, let me show y'all this. I got one more thing to show y'all. Check this out. These Nephilims is everywhere. Man. This is about the Egyptian mythology.
Apophis, the sworn enemy of the sun god Ra, was the most dangerous of all monsters of chaos who constantly threatened the divine order in the Egyptian mythology. The god was an ancient Egyptian deity described as the embodiment of darkness and evil. Commonly known as Apep, he was viewed as the greatest opponent of light and thus earned the reputation of enemy of Ra and lord of chaos. He appears in art as a giant hideous snake, a dreadful serpent from Egyptian religion. The eyes of Apophis seem to have been particularly feared, and it was thought that the sound of his terrifying roar would cause the underworld to rumble. The movement of his body could cause earthquakes, and was associated with hidden sandbanks that were dangerous to boats on the Nile River, leading to the titles of evil lizard or evil dragon from the Nile. In Egyptian myths, snakes can be divine protectors or symbols of renewal, but the Apophis snake has proven to be an entirely destructive force, and was the negative counterpart of the god creator. While in most texts Apep is described as a giant demon snake long of 120 yards, he was elsewhere depicted as a humongous crocodile that once lived in the abysmal depths of darkness. Throughout ages, storytellers have been suggesting that a combination of the snake and crocodile forms of Apophis may be the origin of dragons that we all know from medieval legends. Apophis, the evil god who led the forces of chaos with the purpose of swallowing the sun, represented everything the Egyptians feared. According to the most popular creation myth, Apophis has always existed in the dark waters of the indifferentiated chaos before the primordial mound rose from them. And as such, he was considered to be the equal of the earliest divinities. However, a variation on this myth explained that the Egyptian goddess Neith, who emerged from the chaotic waters, created the ordered world, and Apophis was a created being who was given life at the same time as creation. He is, therefore, not the equal of the primordial gods but their subordinate. Once creation began, order rose from chaos and the first sunrise appeared, but Apophis was angered because of the introduction of duality and order to the universe. Prior to creation, everything was a unified whole, but then there were opposites such as male and female, water and land, light and darkness. In some accounts, Apophis became the enemy of the sun god because the sunlight was the first sign of the new world and symbolized divine order and life. The Lord of Chaos then thought that if he could engulf the sun, he could return the universe to its primal unity of darkness, to its original and indifferentiated state. In some stories, the resentment felt by Apophis towards Ra was a result of him being dethroned by the god. In response to that offense, Apophis swore to take revenge on the sun god by preventing him from accomplishing his daily duty, which was to bring dawn every morning. In Egyptian accounts of the nightly journey of the sun, which was Ra's great barge sailing through the sky from dawn to dusk, the ship of the god was usually ambushed while passing through the world of the dead. As it navigated into the darkness of the night, it was assaulted by Apophis who sought to kill Ra and impeding the sun to ever rise. On board of the great ship, a number of deities depicted in different eras stood in the prow of the solar bark in order to protect the sun god against the tremendous snake. Although the gods were all powerful, they needed all the help they could get for fighting Apophis. So, the justified dead who had been admitted to the paradise are often seen on the celestial ship helping to defend it. Saying to have a strong magical gaze, Apophis somehow paralyzed the gods, all except Seth, to whom the gaze of the snake was completely harmless. The god Seth was therefore the first one to drive Apophis off with his spear, and the fight between them has sometimes been interpreted as a myth that explains raging hurricanes and thunderstorms. The Lord of Chaos was always beaten and slaughtered in the course of every night. However, it didn't matter how many times he was defeated and killed, he always came back to life and was ready again by dusk to resume the war, waiting for the barge of the sun when it entered the underworld. Apophis is also shown in scriptures as a dismembered serpent being chopped off into pieces. A famous depiction along that line comes from another myth, in which Ra himself defeated the monstrous snake in the form of a divine cat. A figure believed to be the embodiment of the protective aspect of the sun god, who guarded the tree that holds the secrets of the eternal life and divine knowledge. This myth also relates the origin of cats in Egyptian beliefs and traditions, as well as the mortal rivalry between felines and snakes. The spirits of the dead along with the living were expected to join in the struggle against the Lord of Darkness. As he was thought to live in the underworld, Apophis was sometimes considered as an eater of souls, thus the dead were buried with spells that could protect them and destroy the god of chaos. Ancient Egyptian priests and laypeople would perform rituals in temples to ensure his defeat, among which two incantations were particularly known. In the Book of Overthrowing Apep, or the Book of Apophis by the Greeks, Egyptians gathered in temples and used spells to combat the giant serpent by annihilating all aspects of his being, including his body, his name and his magic. Priests acted out this perpetual war by drawing pictures and building effigies of Apophis that were said to contain all the evil and darkness in the land of Egypt. These images and models were cursed, destroyed by mutilation, then burned. This book is known among those holding execration texts that accompany rituals for cursing a person or an entity, and which remained in use throughout the ancient Egyptians' history. The Egyptians believed that every natural entity was imbued with divine essence, and this of course included the sun, which gave life, and at night required the prayers and support of the people to ensure they would see him the next day. Therefore, cloudy or stormy days were concerning because they were signs that Apophis was gaining ground. An indication that the sun god was having problems bringing his ship back up into the sky. Solar eclipses were particular times of terror for the Egyptians, as they were interpreted as a sign of Ra's potential demise. By watching the sun rose again and moved across the sky, the Egyptians would know they had played a part in the god's victory over the forces of darkness. Apophis never had a formal cult and was never worshipped since he was related to destruction and death. But he would feature in a number of tales dealing with his efforts to destroy the sun and return order to chaos. Rituals surrounding the overthrowing of Apophis represent the eternal struggle between good and evil, which often relies upon the daily attention of humanity in order to succeed. However, this endless fight alongside the gods against the forces of darkness were not particular only to Apophis. The contending of Horus and Seth as well obeyed the same pattern of rivalry in which the forces of order often come out victorious from conflicts opposing them to pandemonium. During the rise of Christianity, Apophis continued to live through its iconography and mythology, merging with the most feared entity of this religion, Lucifer, the fallen angel and eternal antagonist of God, who worked endlessly with his attendants to overturn divine order and bring eternal chaos among the living. If you liked this video of Apophis, let me know in the comments below. And as always, stay curious.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. Praise the Lord, now to the Most High. Forever live as anointed, beloved Son, in the hearts and minds of the faithful elect. Every last one of you brothers and sisters. All right, so y'all see the title, Nazarene Edition, Part 31. The Folly and Sin of the Heathen Gods. This is the third installment of that. And we about to get into some more understanding. We're going to get into the Clementine homilies, and then we're going to, if we got some time, we're going to deal with the SN Gospel of Peace as well. Good to see y'all in the building. Bless up. All right, if I can be heard, go ahead and give me a 7 up in the chat. All right, I'll say a media that is due to hit Earth in the near future has been named. Oh, okay. The name of that God we were just talking about. I believe this is the star that is mentioned in the book of Revelation that will cause wormwood to the ocean. Hey, never know. Never know. Things are heating up. But to me, it's wild how everything is named after these so-called Nephilims. Everything. Everything is named after these suckers. So for us to move around as if some aspect of our life are not influenced by unseen forces, we are sadly mistaken. Sadly mistaken. The schedules of your lives, your daily routines, what day you want to go on a date, everything. Birthdays, and the days you entered this realm, and everything. The day you keeping your feast days, you got to come on out and say a certain date, don't you? Certain month, certain day of the week, certain month. All this stuff is named after these so-called Roman and Greek gods, the pantheons, which have their origin back to the fallen angels, which go back to the dark-skinned nations as well. Don't be fooled. Them the melanin deficient nations, they didn't know. No, they go back to Egypt. They go back to ancient Babylon, Sumeria, Nimrod. Nimrod was a Cushite, so we can throw the whole theory of just because you lacking melanin, we can throw that off the tape. Nimrod was a Cushite. You understand? Meaning son of Cush. Cush, the land of Cush, is what you know is Ethiopia today. It's land of Cush. I mean, that man was a Ethiopian in today's language, or a Cushite. Yeah. Yeah. So these things trace all the way back. I know some people don't believe in freaky angels. Y'all believe in freaky angels and all that extra stuff. Look, we're just telling you the overwhelming evidence. All right. And just based off a little research, anybody can understand that man is not man and the animals are not the only species, if you want to call it, who have ever visited this earth. It's just what it is. There's megalithic structures that, quote unquote, man can't even reproduce today. All over this earth. How do these things get built? By whom? What ancient technology were they using? All right. Some of y'all think that the bones being dug up, all that's just a fabrication. I mean, that's real easy to say when something comes out that challenges what you believe. It's easy to write it off and say, oh, that's just a fabrication. That don't mean that. That don't mean that. They made that up. All right. But if you slow down, just look at everything, it's too much evidence to point toward who we would call watchers, fallen ones, Nephilims. You know what I mean? The advancement in technology, the certain knowledge brought to mankind that would eventually destroy him. I mean, it's what it is. So idolatry is deeper than what we just see on the surface. All right, idolatry is running rampant in the Israelite movement. Rampant. And it's deeper than you professing to be a warlock or a witch. You dig? It's deeper than what you think you know. It's way deeper, right? Because that idolatry or the worship of the Nephilims is embedded, deeply ingrained into your everyday life, your everyday existence. For this purpose was the Son of the Most High revealed that he will destroy the works of the devil. Absolutely. All right, so we're going to kick this off real quick. I want to show y'all something. We're going to get into the homilies. We're going to read Clementine homilies. For y'all don't know, first century documentation. The Peter's journal, documented by Clement. All right, Clement was his understudy, his helper, who followed him around for years until he was officially initiated as a Nazarene. All right. Now, Clement documented Peter's debates with one called Simon Magus. All right. And he had to report to James the Just, the brother of the Messiah. Peter and Clement had to. All right. They had to straight report back to him yearly and at the end of every 7 years. Right. They had to document the teachings, what was being taught. All right. James will go over that. James is the Messiah's biological brother. You see flashes of him in the scripture. All right. You see him at the Jerusalem Council. James is the one in charge. He's the one that stood up and was giving judgments. All right. His name in history is YHWH'S or James the Just. Just so happens he's the biological brother of who we call the Messiah. He's the one that was left in charge. All right, he's the one that even Peter had to report into and check in with. All right, well, Clement had to do the same thing. All right, and James actually is the leader over all the Messiah's movement after the Messiah left this earth. It was his brother James. All right, and not just the assembly in Jerusalem, but every assembly. Everybody had to be up under his authority. All right. Even Paul, right? You think Paul eventually had to go back to Jerusalem, right? But then Paul started doing his own thing, all right? So, yeah, it's order in the whole thing, all right? Now, let's get into this. So we're going to get into the Clementine homilies because Peter and Clement, what they were doing was very well documented. As you check any of the seminary or theological departments at Yale, at Cambridge, at Oxford, they all know. Those who are professors. They all know about the Clementine homilies. They study them. They read them. All right. So let's get into this. Set up for a living say. Only ones who don't believe in the Nephilim are most Christians. A lot of Israelites don't believe in that. They call them freaky angels. Y'all believe in the freaky angels? All right. Let me do this real quick. I got y'all. All right, bless up. And the Most High bless all y'all right on to the house of Yedai, LL Young for the support. Our praises. Hallelujah. Let me go ahead and share this real quick. All right, so y'all see the title, and let's get into more of this. This is part 3 of the Folly and Sin of the Heathen Gods, and installment 31 of Nazarene edition. And 31, huh? Boys ain't stopped yet. What y'all up to? All right, bless up. Let me show y'all something real quick. Let's pull this up. All right, we went over part 2 yesterday evening. Now we in homily 6. All right. Homily 6. And for y'all that don't know, Peter just sent Clement and his crew before him to run down on Simon Magus. All right. Peter had already ran down on Simon. He had already confounded him in front of everybody. Already confounded him and everything. So Simon runs. All right. I think y'all, believe it or not, this is where the game come from. Simon says, I think it may come from this guy. Oh, Simon Magus. All right. Not bad, y'all. But anyway, Peter say, look, I'm going to be up them ways in about a week. Y'all leave tonight. Go run down on him. Get some info about him. So while Clement and them there, Clement run into some people that he ended up knowing from his childhood in Rome. All right. And then a battle ensues over the gods. That's why I showed that video or those videos first. All right. All right. One of the guys who was very well acquainted, not just Clement, acquainted with the Roman and Greek gods because he was raised in that whole environment. So he knew about the wickedness and the idolatry and the sin of the so-called gods that the Romans and Greeks were worshiping. He knew the folly and the sin in them and the foolishness for anybody that worshiped them. All right. So word got out that Clement, who was royalty or of the noble families in Rome, related to the household of Caesar and all that. So, it didn't benefit him in any on a material level or on a physical level to follow this poor righteous teacher who the Romans called barbarians, to follow this poor righteous teacher named Peter, this black Jew, this Israelite, this Hebrew, who was trained by Messiah himself, and his master had been crucified in Palestine years earlier. It didn't benefit Clement anything materially, is what I'm saying. Right? He already was related to the family of Caesar. He already had all the pampering and the, dressing in the finest silk from the Far East, and, getting grapes thrown down his throats, and he already had the best education in the West, and already had the finest silk robes and the financing and the gold so for him to follow this poor righteous teacher, this man named Shimon Kephas, Simon Peter, he didn't gain anything worldly speaking by that. So if anybody was to deconstruct what the Romans believed and what the Greeks believed, it would be somebody like Clement. Now, word got out that Clement was following Peter. Apion was a friend of Clement's father. He knew Clement since he was young. All right. So Apion, Clement already tore off in him in Homilies, the 4th chapter. Apion said he would show up the very next day. He didn't show. All right. So Clement in Homily 5 keep pouring in. He go into a trick that he played on Apion when he was young in Rome. Now we in Homily 6, and now Apion finally meets back up with Clement. All right. In Homily 5, Apion was claiming to be sick. All right. So now we in Homily 6. All right. So let's get into this. All right. And on the 3rd day, when I came with my friends to the appointed place in Tyre, I found Apion sitting between a Nubian and Athenodorus and waiting for us. Now, it's crazy dude named Anubian because the Egyptians worship a dog-head god named Anubis. I just thought that was a wild play on words, you dig? And waiting for us, along with many other learned men. But in no wise dismayed, I greeted them and sat down opposite Apion. And in a little, he began to speak. I wish to start from the following point and to come with all speed at once to the question. Before you, my son Clement, No, he's sonning him, calling him his son, even though he's not his father. He's friends of his father. All right. I highly advise anybody that's listening that didn't catch part 1 and part 2 of this Folly of the Heathen Gods. Part 1 we did a few days ago, and part 2 we did last night. All right. Before you, my son Clement, joined us, my friend Anubian here, and Athenadoris, who yesterday were among those who heard you discourse, were reporting to me what you said of the numerous false accusations I brought against the gods when I was visiting you in Rome. At the time, you were shamming love. I charged them with pederasty, pederast. Not just a pedophile, but a pederast. Not just a pedophile, but a pederast. Trip about that. How I charge them with pederasty, lasciviousness, and numerous incests of all kinds. But my son, you ought to have known that I was not in earnest when I wrote such things about the gods, but was concealing the truth. He said I wasn't being truthful when I wrote these things about these gods, but I was concealing the truth. Sure. From my love to you. That truth, however, if it so please you, you may hear from me now. So he's saying, like, the stories that I wrote in that letter to that woman that I thought you were in love with, I was just playing. I didn't mean it. It all was just a joke. I didn't mean that for real. And y'all, that's what y'all gonna find when y'all run down on these Kemetic brothers, when you run down on these Egyptians and these cats that's into Roman and Greek mythology. When you bring out the stories of how the gods act so lewd and nude, how they act so wickedly. And what do you mean wickedness? Pedophilia, pederasty, incest, adultery, murder, and y'all all the like, passing women around, Kama Sutras. All these are acts attributed to their gods, the ones that they revere. You see? And when you get down to Apion was trying to get Clement to teach him a spell to put on this woman. And he said, I guarantee you're having a week. Clement say, nah, I'm good. If I can't get her with words, I don't want her. All right? Apion says, you know what? Well, let me write her a letter. Clement agrees, write the letter. Apion writes a letter and is convincing this woman to commit adultery, to be passed around, to be a whore, basically. And he said, trip off this because the gods you revere, they do that. So you might as well do it. And if you resist these passions, if you resist adultery and lewdness, if you resist whoredom, then you're committing sins against them who said it's okay. Apion wrote this in this so-called love letter to this woman that he thought Clement was in love with. Clement was faking the whole time. Clement got the letter from Apion and read it in front of everybody. He said, look at what these cats believe. Look at the wickedness of their gods. So here go Apion. I was just playing. You should know I wasn't being truthful. Yeah, whatever. Chapter 2, homily 6. The myths are not to be taken literally. The wise, and this is Apion talking, the wisest of the ancients, men who had by hard labor learned all truth, kept the path of knowledge hid from those who were unworthy, and had no taste for lessons in divine things. For it is not really true that from Uranus and his mother G were born 12 children. He said, oh, that ain't really true, you know. But in the stories of their gods, sons are laying with their own mothers and producing children. So what do you mean wise men hid the true nature of the gods with wicked stories. How does that make sense? What do you mean somebody's unworthy to have that type of knowledge? Why would you conceal righteousness from those who are seeking righteousness, who are seeking knowledge? And you do this by covering up righteousness with wicked stories about a son fathering children with his mother. So these children are what? His children or his siblings? This is utter confusion. As the myth counts them, 6 sons: Okinos, Koios, Krios, wow, Hyperion, Japetos, Kronos, and 6 daughters: Thea, Themis, Minimosine. Hold on, let's get it. Meta, Thetis, and Rhea. Not that Kronos with the knife of adamant mutilated his father, Uranus, as you say, and threw the part into the sea. Look at that, mutilated his father. Mutilated his father. Cut off his privy member. Threw it in the ocean. Look at this. Them very gods that we looked at that video about. These fallen ones. These are the stories that are written about them. Yet they are revered by nation after nation, right? And they are revered, but even mimicked or copied. That's what's going on here. These cats are mimicked and copied, and you wonder why Rome, you wonder why Greece, you wonder why all these different societies, you feel me, are lewd and nude. You wonder why. Because look at the actions of their so-called gods. Look at that. Ooh-wee. So-called makeshift gods, these deities. All right, we on page, we in the Clementine. That's water right there for y'all. We on page 116. Got the young snipers in the building. Bless up. See y'all, Roddy Rod, Darius in the building. All right, we at the top of page 116. All right, in the Clementine. It says, not that Kronos with the knife of adamant mutilated his father, Uranus, as you say, and threw the part into the sea, straight chopped off his father's rock. Yeah. Nor that Aphrodite sprang from the drops of blood which flowed from it. Wow.
I actually remember that story too.
Yeah, you know, they teach Greek mythology in school.
All right.
You understand? The Clash of the Titans.
Ain't that something?
Perseus Jackson in them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like you straight taught that. You dig? And then you wonder, and then you right behind it comes quote unquote sex education. When I was in high school, junior high, they was getting out condoms.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because look, once you start reading these stories, and you're like, okay, these are gods, right? Well, the gods must be okay with that. And then you start mimicking the behavior of these so-called gods, right? And with these gods, anything goes. You can do whatever the hell you want.
Free willing, huh?
You know what I mean? Everything from sodomy, homosexuality, pedophilia, pederasty, you know, all of it. No matter what I'm talking about, incest, whatever you want to talk about, it's all good. So we say, and threw the part in the sea, nor the Aphrodite, about this, sprang from the drops of blood which flowed from it, flowed from the privy member. You feel me? Of who was it? The father of Uranus. That's about this.
Uranus.
No, right, Uranus. Nor that Kronos associated with Rhea and devoured his first begotten son, Pluto.
Right in our face, man.
Right. Because a certain saying of Prometheus. Now, the cats be sipping that promethazine, that lean and all that. They come from another Nephilim, a so-called Greek god. Prometheus sprang from wickedness, though. Here, you got something to say?
No, it's just that, you know what I'm saying? I know it's like a lot of these, especially concerning like the Greek gods and stuff like that. Like I didn't heard the stories too many times, and it's just like, but that's the way to hide it. You know what I'm saying? Right in front of your face, because you don't never think to tie it to everything else.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you think it's just something that's like it's something interesting to look at. You know what I'm saying, or whatever. And I'm just like, because I remember everything that he's saying.
Yeah.
It ain't like he's saying nothing that's wrong, because I remember the story.
Man, they showed you all that in school.
Yeah, that
you know what I mean? No matter, as you progress through the ages, grade school, middle school, high school, they talk about that Greek mythology. It's out there. And then by the time you graduate and get to the universe or the university, it's really full-fledged. Then they got fraternities and all that. You know what I mean? The gatekeepers, basically. You done graduated from high school, common school. Now you get to go out into the universe.
Still in Rome.
You feel me? University. Right? Just so happened the constellations are named after these suckers, the planets. You understand? The days of the week, the months of the year.
That's crazy. Because then, I was actually looking at that etymology that you hit too, because it's like it gets to the point to where then you got the New World Order thing, and it gets to the point to where the whole mission is to create one song, one verse, universe. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's the whole mission. You know what I'm saying? For everybody to be on one verse, one song. Right. One
Sing vibration.
The same tune, one vibration.
Right. Watching to the beat of one drum. Ain't that wild? So we got this right here because a certain saying of Prometheus that a lot of the brothers is on. That's how you know this is demonic habitation. Led him to fear that a child born from him would wax stronger than himself and spoil him of his kingdom. Nor that he devoured in the same way Poseidon, another god. And I believe that's the father of old Perseus, or Zeus is one of them. Perseus, yeah. Because the children, if you ain't careful, the children be watching that stuff. Yeah, bro. Percy Jackson and so, and this Minotaurs running through there. They're like, what the hell is going on? What the hell is going on around here, man? It's say, okay, nor that when Zeus was born next his mother, I'm reading it. Nor that he devoured in the same way Poseidon, his second child. Nor that when Zeus was born next, his mother Rhea concealed him. And when Kronos asked for him that he might devour him, gave him a stone instead. Nor that this, when it was devoured, pressed those who had been previously devoured and forced them out. So that Pluto, who was devoured first, came out first, and after him Poseidon, and then Zeus. Nor that Zeus, as the story goes, preserved by the wit of his mother, ascended into heaven and spoiled or robbed his father of the kingdom. Ascended into heaven. I would be like the Most High. I would sit my throne above the throne of sound like Satan, don't it? Yeah, so does. Not sure about this. Nor that he came down, nor that he punished his father's brother. Ascended into heaven and spoiled his father of the kingdom, nor that he punished his father's brothers. Nor that he came down to lust after mortal women.
Well, there it is.
Okay. Nor that he associated with his sisters and daughters and sister-in-law and was guilty of shameful pederasty. We need to look that up. That's another branch of pedophilia.
His wife was his sister.
Yeah. A pederast is something even worse than a pedophile. Y'all remember old Joe Paterno used to be the head football coach for Penn State. Remember years ago, it all came out there for decades. He was having his way with these so-called football players in the showers and all that. You know what I mean? And then right before he was supposed to stand trial, he died. But they was charged him on these accounts right here. He was a pederast. All right. Nor that he devoured his daughter Metis in order that from her he might make a thing be born out of his own brain, and from his thigh might bear Dionysus, who was said to have been rent in pieces by the Titans. Nor that in Tennessee Titans. This stuff encompasses every aspect of your life. Right? You born into this so-called, something like the Hunger Games almost. But you born into this realm, you understand, or this simulation of the Greeks and the Romans, in which they got from the darker nations, and which was, passed down from these fallen ones, these watchers. That's what you're born into. That's what you're born into. Now look at this. It says, nor that he held a feast in the marriage of Peleus and Thetis, nor that he excluded Eris, discord, from the marriage, nor that Eris on her part thus dishonor, contrived on an occasion of quarreling and discord among the feasters, nor that she took a golden apple from the gardens of Hesperides and wrote on it for the fur. And then they fable how Hera and Athena and Aphrodite found the apple and quarreling about it came to Zeus, and he did not decide it for them, but sent them by Hermes to the shepherd Paris. Wow. My bad, y'all. What page was on?
116.
117. All right. Be judged of their beauty. But there was no such judging of the goddesses, nor did Paris give the apple to Aphrodite, nor did Aphrodite, being thus honored, honor him in return by giving him a Helen to wife. For the honor bestowed by the goddess could never have furnished a pretext for a universal war, and that to the ruin of him who was honored himself, nearly related to the race of Aphrodite. But my son, as I said, such stories have a peculiar and philosophical meaning, which can be allegorically set forth in such a way as you yourself would listen with wonder. And I said, this is what Clement is saying. So you got Apion trying to explain away these wicked stories, and saying it's all philosophical and allegorical. My son, you should know this. Stop following this poor righteous preacher, this barbarian, this Jew named Peter, whose master was crucified in Palestine decades ago. Stop following him. You know better than it because you were raised in this. These are all allegories. He's just speaking philosophical, right? He says, set forth in such a way that you yourself would listen and wonder. And I said, I beseech you not to torment me with delay. And he said, do not be afraid, for I shall lose no time, but commence at once. Apion proceeds to interrupt the myths. So just like with Apion, today, if you run into any Kemet cat, and I played the gay ass high priest from Kemet last night. Boy got fag in his name. But look, he being truthful, right? He ain't under no illusion. This is the ancient way of Kemet.
Facts.
This is ancient Egyptian history. And this is what we've been trying to tell all the cats. And they real quiet about him. Your Sotnetters and all them and Jabaris.
What's his name again?
Man, I don't even, I forgot. I'll send you the video. It's long, but he the first openly gay king of Egypt. Boy had his breast out, had a silk robe draped over his shoulders. Nigga had a wig on. I said, oh my
Eagle right there.
Yeah, the eagle. I'm like, what is going on here? All right, but he like at least he being truthful.
Yeah.
Apion and any other committed cat the brothers run into, they gonna try to do what Apion do. They gonna say, oh no, that's just philosophical and allegorical. Right? Only those who initiated know the true stories. Right? Clement say, look, don't torment me with delay, speak on. Right. But see, it's crazy because Apion gotta know that Clement was raised in this. Right. He know the ins and outs. So whatever you about to say, surely he done heard the breakdown before. I like you being part of something. And then you have a revolutionary change of mindset. You dig? And people try to convince you to change your mind back to what it was. You like, look, I know all that. I was raised in that. I know every breakdown you're going to come with. Right. All right? So here you go. Apion proceeds to interrupt the myths. And this is Apion talk. There was once a time when nothing existed but chaos and a confused mixture of orderless elements, which were as yet simply heaped together. This nature testifies, and great men have been of opinion that it was so. Of these great men, I shall bring forward to you him who excelled them all in wisdom. Homer. Y'all heard of Homer before? Yeah. Homer, where he says with a reference to the original confused mass, but may you all become water. But may you all become water and earth, implying that from these all things had their origin, and that all things return to their first state, which is chaos,
Mm.
when the watery and earthy substances are separated. And Hesiod in the Theogony says, assuredly chaos was the very first to come into being. Now, I got you, Darius. I see you. Go ahead, bro.
No, I was just gonna say one thing. I'm like,
Go ahead.
the Egyptian, what you call it, say the same thing.
Yeah.
But they say the chaos is water, it's like a dark water, and it's called chaos.
It's called
But
chaos.
they say the same thing. You know, Ra and all. They originate from that. And it's chaos.
So we really dealing with the same story,
Yeah.
right? Just different names,
Yeah.
slight variations, but basically the same thing, right? So it's wild. Okay, this 2,000-year-old document right here we read.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now look at this. It says, now by coming into being, he evidently means that chaos came into being as having a beginning. It did not always exist without beginning. And Orpheus likens chaos to an egg, in which was the confused mixture of the primordial elements. You dig? The primordial or the original or the most ancient elements. The primordial. You heard the primordial man.
Yeah.
Come out of the primordial waters. The primordial elements.
Right.
He's just saying the most ancient, you know, the original, you know, that's all they're saying, man. All right.
The old.
Yeah, the oldest of old. The confused mixture of the primordial elements. This chaos, which Orpheus calls an egg, is taken for granted by Hesiod, having a beginning, produced from infinite matter, and originated in the following way. Origin of chaos. This matter of four kinds and endowed with life was an entire infinite abyss, so to speak, in eternal stream, born about without order, and forming every now and then countless but ineffectual combinations, which therefore it dissolved again from one of order, ripe indeed, but not able to be bound so as to generate a living creature. And once it chanced that this infinite seed, which was thus by its own nature driven about with a natural motion, flowed in an orderly manner from the same to the same, back on itself, like a whirlpool, mixing the substances in such a way that from each there flowed down the middle of the universe as in the funnel of a mold, precisely that which was most useful and suitable for the generation of a living creature. This was carried down by the all-carrying whirlpool, drew to itself the surrounding spirit, and having been so conceived that it was very fertile, formed a separate substance. For just as a bubble is usually formed in water, so everything round about contributed to the conception of this ball-like globe. Then there came forth the light after it had been conceived in itself and was borne upwards by the divine spirit which surrounded it. Perhaps the greatest thing ever born, a piece of workmanship, so to speak, having life in it, which had been conceived from that entire infinite abyss, in shape like an egg, and as swift as a bird. This is Apion attempting to explain the wicked myths of the Greeks. Remember, Clement says the whole belief system of the Greeks is spawned by a demon. He came right out and said in Homily 4. Oh, what do you mean? These are all allegory. Yeah. Right. Well, this is him trying to explain away in front of the crowd what he says Clement is misunderstanding about the myths of these so-called gods that we all know goes back to the fallen angels. You understand? And in times past, on the real, y'all, not that long ago, really were men that lived this earth.
Yeah.
That died and were deified into the ranking of these so-called deities.
Some mighty.
Yeah. Men of the renown of old. And then you posted yesterday, the burial place of Zeus. I said, look at this. There goes Zeus right here. This nigga dead and buried. You know what I mean? This heathen dead and buried and was deified to a god. Okay, so here go Apion explaining Chronos and Rhea. Now you must think of Chronos as time. Chronos, right? Chronicles. Wow, they think they slick, huh? Now you must think of Chronos as time, Chronos, and Rhea as the flowing Rheon of the watery substance. For the whole body of matter was born about for some time before it brought forth like an egg, the spirit-like all-embracing heaven, Uranus, which at first was full of productive marrow, so that it was able to produce out of itself elements and colors of all sorts, while from the one substance and the one color it produced all kinds of forms. For as a peacock's egg, he keeps talking about these eggs, man. As a peacock's egg seems to have only one color, while potentially it has in it all the colors of the animal that is to be. So this living egg, conceived out of infinite matter, when set in motion by the underlying and ever-flowing matter, produces many different forms. For within the circumference, a certain living creature, which is both male and female, is formed by the skill of the indwelling spirit, indwelling divine spirit. This Orpheus calls Phanes, because when it appeared Phineas, the universe shone forth from it with the luster of that most glorious of the elements, fire perfected in moisture. Nor is this incredible, since in glowworms, nature gives us to see a moist light. Fangs and Pluto. Derek, you finna say something.
I'm just listening. It's okay, but I know it's just, you know what I'm saying? Just the stories unfolding.
Yeah, him trying to explain away the wickedness. Right? Now, trip off this. This is all somebody got to ask. Well, if that's what's meant, why isn't that written down?
Right.
The way you explaining it, if that's what is meant by these so-called wicked stories, why what you were speaking wasn't written down?
Right.
Why we got to read about eating children? Why we got to read about old boy getting his rectum mishandled? Why we got to read about pedophilia and pederasty and adultery? Why we got to read about bestiality? Because a lot of them were appearing in the form of animals, laying with these women and conceiving these so-called men of renown.
When I read was Uranus or whatever, it said he became the sky. So he wasn't already there.
So he wasn't the sky from the beginning. Or when we read about them, they mistresses becoming the stars.
Right.
So there were no stars before that.
Right.
But the children they had with them being tortured in Tartarus or Hades.
Yeah. Under what they call, well, they acknowledge that, but they call her Gaia.
Yeah, Gaia. Yeah. Well, this will be like he explained it. My simple question would be, look, well, if that is what it is, why isn't it written down the way you explained it? Well, I mean, who hides righteousness with wicked stories?
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Obviously, the whole society mimics these gods. So you're saying the entire Roman and Greek society is not worthy to understand this hidden mystery? Obviously, they need it. Right? One of y'all want to read that? Phanes and Pluto.
This egg then, which was the first substance, growing somewhat hot, was broken by the living creature within, and then there took shape and came forth something, such as Orpheus also speaks of, where he says, then the capacious egg was broken, and so by the mighty power of that which appeared, Phineas, and came forth, the globe attained coherency and maintained order, while it itself took its seat, as it were, on the summit of heaven. There, ineffable mystery, diffusing light through endless ages. But the productive matter left inside the globe separated the substance of all things. For first, its lower part, just like dregs, sank downwards of its own weight. And this they call Pluto, from its gravity.
From its gravity and weight. Plutonium.
From its gravity and weight. And great quantity of underlying matter, styling it the king of Hades and the dead.
Wow, Pluto, the king of hell or Hades and the dead. All right, all these different gods, man, it's crazy. and it's infused into every fabric. It's deeply ingrained into your existence. You understand? That's why I understand when brothers be like, when I first came in around 05, where everybody, niggas ain't want to say Monday, Tuesday. They like, man, look, but I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand now. When you be like, hold on, you're calling on the gods of these heathens. You know what I mean? Hey, straight up, like it was a major push. Like you could, first day, you speak you some Hebrew, Yom Rishon, nigga. You know what I mean? Second day, you know what I mean? Because in every aspect of our society is deeply ingrained. And I can see why brothers don't want to, you know what I mean, say January, February, March, and all that. That makes sense to me. I understand, like I'm not, but see, my thing was, it was always a faction of brothers that be like, oh man, just say Tuesday. Oh man, you know, just blowing it off, but you ain't realizing you're calling on the name of these other gods. All right, understand? I mean, that's how they stay alive. That's how they receive power. You dig? Like through your acknowledgement of them.
And you think about it, just for the sake of others that we keep doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just okay, since you won't understand what I'm doing, if I do say it that type of way, you ain't gonna like it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna understand it, so I'm gonna just say what you like, you know what I'm saying?
All right. Try to make it the peace, but it's even more confusion. So I mean, I understand when brothers be like, nah, I don't want to say nothing. You understand? I ain't trying to say nothing. They got any type of persuasion of they so-called gods. Y'all, even when we came out of Babylon, we changed the names of our biblical months into Babylonian names.
Right.
The month of Savan and Tammuz. You understand? That's the name of their gods. Nisan. No, that ain't a card. That's a god, player. You understand? Mm-hmm. So I understand that. I look back on it like, how could you even be mad at the brother to say, man, look, I'm not saying Friday no more, frigga day. I'm going to say Yom Shishi. You know what I mean? Day 6. How about that?
Right.
You did? I can't be mad at the brother. I ain't going to say Saturday no more. I'm going to say Shabbat, brother. Mm-hmm. You did? I can't be mad at no brothers like that. They don't want to, I'm going to say month 1, month 2, month 3. Now, I ain't going to acknowledge the planets, Pluto and Mars and all that. I mean, it ain't got nothing to do with me anyway.
We can all get on one accord with that.
Yeah. You understand? Like, hey, look, it makes sense to me. Like, hey, brother, I'm not mad at you. That makes sense. Yeah. Hey, you know what I mean? I need to go ahead and get myself together too, you know, and make a conscious effort to stop calling on these so-called, you know what I mean, fallen ones, deities, devils, whatever you want to say.
And then that can be considered as their lane. You know what I'm saying? That's their lane that they starting. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And that'll help. So when we all integrate certain things or whatever, y'all got that part and y'all can tell, okay, now we need to start doing this. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So you can't disrupt their lane.
Yeah, because men be acting like it's too hard. Yeah. You know what I mean, man? It's too hard. And then, man, look, my one brother, Gideon, bless my brother. Y'all know Gideon say, I'm about to go to the library and print out some papers. You know what I mean? I'm about to pass some paper around her so everybody can get on one accord. Say it with me. Sunday is day 1. You know what I mean? He like, these old niggas acting like it's too hard. Right. He said, we will pass some papers around her, you know what I mean, and take everybody back to Kenny Gordon till we get on one accord. That boy had me hollering. I said, boy, you did. So I understand anybody listening that, you know, that they get offended when you hear certain, I understand. It makes sense. Right. All right. Chapter 7. What we got?
When then they say that this primordial substance, although most filthy and rough, was devoured by chronos, that is, time. This is to be understood in the physical sense as meaning that it sank downwards, and the water which flowed together after this first sediment and floated on the surface of the first substance they call Poseidon. So you mean he just wasn't no person walking around?
All right.
He ain't got no Triton.
All right. All right.
Controlling seas.
Right. All right.
And then what remained, the purest and noblest of all, for it was translucent fire they called Zeus.
So these are elements,
Right.
substances. If you're listening to these cats explain themselves, they're gonna hang themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Zeus and Poseidon ain't gods then.
So you saying he water?
He water, and he's pure fire. So they're not gods then. They're elements.
The elements now.
You worshiping the element.
You worshiping the elements. They're not gods, they're elements, right? Okay. And the way you explaining this could have easily been explained instead of attributing wicked stories.
Yeah.
Why you just didn't explain it like this? And why you just didn't come on out and say, no, they're not gods for real, they're elements. That's water and that's fire.
It sounds to me like if they was doing that, you know what I'm saying, and calling these elements that, which they could have been, you know what I'm saying, calling these elements by these names, they probably gave these same names to people that died. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, we're gonna put these attributes and when we worship these elements, we're gonna put this on this man right here.
We're gonna deify him.
Yeah.
Anthropomorphisms.
Right.
That's what they called it. We're gonna deify him.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Watch this. Go ahead.
Zeus, they call Zeus from its glowing nature. Now, since fire ascends, this was not swallowed and made to descend by time or chronos. But, as I said, the fiery substance, since it has life in it, and naturally ascends, flew right up into the air, which from its purity is very intelligent, by his own proper heat. Then Zeus, that is the glowing substance, draws up what is left in the underlying moisture, to wit, that very strong and divine spirit which they call Metis.
Yeah, Metis or Metis was eaten. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a whole bunch of time.
Yeah, Metis, seed on lettuce. Huh? That's in that Egyptian madness.
Right.
You understand?
Sounds
Cat
like
ejaculate on some lettuce and ate it. The god Bess. So he's trying to explain this. You dig? Oh, this is all allegorical. It's got to do with the creation and time, chronos, and Poseidon being the primordial waters, and the fire that's left is so translucent. It's called Zeus. And you know, Metis was the divine spirit. Sound like these ain't gods at all. Sound like these are elements.
Yeah.
Based on how he's explaining. I can't wait to Clement rebut this cat though. Because he's talking to somebody that knows the whole system in and out. All right. Who we got next? Pallas and Hera.
They said wife. Sister wife. And this, when it had reached the summit of the ether, was devoured by it, moisture being mixed with heat, so to say, and causing in it that ceaseless palpitation. It begat intelligence. It wasn't here, which they call Pallas. From this palpitating.
Right, got a palpitating heart.
And this is artistic wisdom, by which the ethereal artificer wrought out the whole world, and from all pervading Zeus, that is from this very high ether, air, extends all the way to our earth, and this they call Hera. Wherefore, because it has come below the ether, which is the pure substance, just as a woman as regards purity is inferior. When the two were compared to see which was the better, she was rightly regarded as the sister of Zeus, in respect of her origin from the same substance, but as his spouse.
Wow.
As being inferior, like a wife.
He's his sister and his wife. Wow. All right, he trying his best to explain it away. You dig? But look, he digging his own grave.
Yeah.
You know, the brother, the Clement was trained up by Peter himself. You know, he about to bust his head. However he respond, it's about to be like, he cut him in twain.
And when somebody was not knowledgeable, they would probably talk to you know what I'm saying? When somebody start questioning guys like that, they probably talk to break it down like that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But that's why we got to know, again, how to defend the Messiah's teachings. Right? That's why this Clementine so hard, because it show you how to defend his teachings.
Yeah.
Regardless of what's left, whatever. This is what was taught, this is how we gonna rock.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And again, why would a heathen make this up? It goes against everything the heathen stands for. It's going against his gods and everything. But why would they make this up? You understand? Obviously, it was around, and the councils that was held decided this not to even be in the Bible.
Right.
Thanks.
Artemis, let's get it.
In Hera, we understand to be a happy tempering of the atmosphere, and therefore she is very fruitful. But Athena, as they call Pallas, was reckoned a virgin because on account of the intense heat, she could produce nothing. And in a similar fashion, Artemis is explained. I mean, they name like every big weapon that they make, they call it Artemis. Like a big weapon, big technological weapon or whatever, they always call it Artemis. Project Artemis, so like
Project. Still honoring and paying homage to their God.
For they take as the lowest depth of air, and so they called her a virgin, because she could not bear anything on account of the extreme cold, and that trouble and drunken composition which arises from the upper and lower vapors. They call Dionysus as troubling the intellect, and the water under the earth, which is in nature indeed one, but which flows through all the paths of the earth, and is divided into many parts. They call Osiris.
Call who?
Osiris.
Wow.
I'm like, I saw the smile. I'm like,
that makes sense. It's just like, everything he's saying, it ties into both of them. Like what you just said when I said the Egyptian thing about the chaos and that ties into Greek too.
Yeah.
So their stories are alike. They just gave different names.
Exactly. Exactly. It's the same thing. It's the same story. It all go back to Slick Willie himself. Them fallen ones. You understand? And a little bit of research to show you man and the animals are not the only species that ever been on this earth. Right. There are megalithic structures that still remain that man can't produce today. One of them is the Giza Pyramid. One of them is the Giza Pyramid, lined right up with certain constellations. You understand? I know Negroes want to believe the Israelites built that. No, they did not. No, they did not. Israelites did not build the Giza pyramids. The three major pyramids that they got. Whenever you think of Egypt, you see three pyramids side by side. Those were not built by Israelites. Those were not built by men. You understand? You got anomalies all around the earth. Man still cannot reproduce. All right, so we got to be real. You got stuff like crop circles. Where them come from? All right, you got giant bones being dug about the earth. His whole skull bigger than your body. Right? You got steps in Peru that obviously were not made for men because the step taller than the person. Who's walking up them?
I was just talking to the real. We were talking about Nephilim and all that, and I was talking about that skull. It was a skull, and it was a bulldozer by it. The skull was bigger than the bulldozer.
Yes. And many other things that they don't know how Stonehenge got there. All right, the Olmec statues down in South America and the Caribbean and all that. You understand? A lot of times, y'all, this stuff is thousands of miles from water. All right, and then it's fashioned the way it's fashioned to where you can't even stick a razor blade through that. And man can't reproduce that today with the laser technology they have, with the cranes and everything that they have. You still can't reproduce that. That means man didn't have that. Man didn't produce that. You see what I'm saying? And it's megalithic structures like this all over this earth, is what I'm saying. And it's evidence, you dig? It's evidence all through. All you gotta do is just look at it. All right? All you gotta do is just look at it. No, man and the animals are not the only species that ever been on this earth. All right? It's just what it is. Yeah.
No, I was just thinking about it was a video I was looking at, and it was this dude, and he real on the topic of the giants walking the earth and all that. So he just real studied on that. He was showing all type of videos. He was showing not videos. He was showing all the pictures of certain mountains, and certain islands and stuff like that. And if you look at them from a bird's eye point of view, a lot of them look like straight faces.
Yeah,
like whole face.
Yeah, I was showing some of them last night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That one picture was like a giant laying down on the side of a mountain, like good night. Then you get in there seeing gospel peace and talk about it.
Right.
Giants laying down on the sides of mountains. I'm like,
I seen one look like an elephant.
yeah. Real talk. And these things just don't naturally occur.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what they want you to know. That's just your mind playing tricks on you. Bro, after 2 times of seeing something, it's not a coincidence.
Right.
Let alone it's hundreds, y'all. It's hundreds of occurrences of these things. You see what I'm saying? So you just gotta call it what it is.
Really?
You gotta call it what it is. I really it out.
I just start over with it. And the water under the earth, which is in nature indeed one, but which flows through all the paths of the earth and is divided into many parts. They called Osiris.
Right. Now Osiris is the top god in Egypt.
Right.
You understand? What the cats gonna say? Well, the Greeks called him Osiris, right?
Yeah.
But his name is Asar. Isis is a set, and what's the boy name? The boy they had. The boy they had. Osiris, Isis, and whatever. And the boy name is Heru.
There, yeah.
You understand? But I forgot his Greek name. Whatever his Greek name is. You dig? But what people ain't understanding is it's the same story. They just rename it. All right? Same stories. What else to say out?
As being cut in pieces. And they understand Adonis as favorable seasons. Aphrodite as coition and generation. Demeter as the earth.
Wow. Metrics, meters.
Right.
The meter.
Right.
Majority of the earth is on metrics. Go ahead, Doc.
The girl Persephone as seed.
I went to school with a girl named Persephone. That's crazy.
Come on.
Yeah, back in middle school, named Persephone. As seeds. Go ahead.
And Dionysus, some understand as divine.
Okay, chapter 10. All such stories are allegorical. Okay. Come on, let's get it.
And I must ask you to think of all such stories as embodying some such allegory. Look on Apollo as the wandering son, Peripollon, a son of Zeus, who was also called Mithras, as completing the period of a year.
Wow, not Mithras, right? They got altars to Mithras beneath most of them Roman churches in Rome. Upstairs, they claim they worshiping the Virgin Mary and her son. Go downstairs in the basement. Altars to Mithras. Yeah, the whole Roman pantheon. All that was just changed to the Vatican Church. That's all it was. The whole invention of Christianity and all that. It's mass paganism.
Right.
All right, go ahead, Doc.
And these said transformations of all pervading Zeus must be regarded as the numerous changes of the seasons. While his numberless wives, you must understand to be years or generations. For the power which proceeds from the ether and passes through the air unites with all the years and generations in turn, and continually varies them, and so produces or destroys the crops. And ripe fruits are called his children, and barrenness of some seasons being referred to unlawful unions.
Look at this. So, you know what I'm saying? It's all allegory. And look, if you're not careful while you're in battle, you'll be like, oh, okay, dang. I was looking at that wrong. No, the hell you would. You read what you read about that.
Right.
They got to explain why they got these wicked stories.
For real though.
You understand? Describing their gods. All right. Now look at this, chapter 11. Clement says, "What? I've heard all this before." Right, because he was raised in it. Now watch this. Go ahead.
While Apion was allegorizing in this way, I became plunged in thought and seemed not to be following what he was saying. So he interrupted his discourse and said to me, "If you do not follow what I am saying, why should I speak at all?"
Because you can tell when somebody had
And he probably did looking at
Yeah,
like,
That's all you got.
like, man, look. Okay, you on the clock now. Because y'all, the whole phrase you preaching to the choir, that's real. Like Apion, you're talking to a man that you know was raised in this.
Yeah.
Right.
So the fact that he believes something else should have you like, man, hey, let me look into what you're saying. Because I know you know what I believe. Hell,
Yeah.
I'm cool with your daddy, boy.
You know what I'm saying?
Nigga, you was raised, you Roman nobility.
Right.
I know you know this. So he's preaching to the choir, and that's why Clement like, look, man, yawn. I done heard this before, Jack. I know where you're going.
Right.
I know exactly what you're gonna say. It's all allegory, right? Right. So here comes Apion getting mad. I shouldn't even be speaking it. But remember, it ain't just them two, there's a crowd. A lot of times when you banging for the faith, you gotta always keep in mind the people that's there. Even though you didn't heard it before. Okay, whatever. All right. Now look at this. What do he say?
And I answered, "Do not suppose that I do not understand what you say. I understand it thoroughly, and that the more that this is not the first time that I have heard it, and that you may know that I am not ignorant of these things, I shall epitomize what you say, what you have said, and supply in their order, as I heard them from others, the allegorical interpretations of those stories you have omitted." And Apion said, "Do so."
So he's like, look, man, I know it so much I can run it down from A to Z. I know exactly what this is. This ain't the first time I've heard this, man. All right. So
these arguments sound familiar, like
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? I'm like, bro, this the same style we
yeah,
be going through and seeing.
same thing. Top of page 122, Clementine Homilies. All right, the epitome of Apion's explanation. All right, so Clement about to sum it all up. All right, go ahead.
And I answered, "I shall not at present speak particularly of that living egg, which was conceived by a happy combination out of infinite matter, and from which, when it was broken, the masculine-feminine things leaped forth, and some say. I say little about all that, up to the point when this broken globe obtained coherency, there being left in it some of its marrow-like matter, and shall briefly run over the description of what took place in it by the agencies of this matter, with all that followed. For from Chronos and Rhea were born, as you say, that is, by time and matter first Pluto, who represents the sentiment which settled down, and then Poseidon, the liquid substance in the middle, which floated over the heavier body below. And the third child, that is, Zeus, is the ether.
The ether.
The ether, and it's the highest of all. It was not devoured, but as it is a fairy power and naturally ascends, it flew up as with a bound to the very highest ether. Chapter 13.
Chapter 13. So Clement just running it down like, man, look, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
You ain't saying nothing that I don't know about.
Okay.
You trying to say the water is Poseidon, Zeus is the earth. You understand? Chronos is time. And I done heard this before, boy. You ain't. You understand? Like I'm not. Ooh, you know.
Facts.
Somebody else may be, you know, with their chin and their palms, like, ooh, this is. It is. Clement like, man, look. Anyway, I know exactly what you're saying and where you're going and what you're trying to say. And you get, in truth, you got to explain it away as allegorical. Because deep down, you know them stories are evil.
Yeah.
They better be allegories.
Yeah.
You can't come on out like Fag Boy yesterday and say,
Right.
yeah, that's just what it is.
Right.
Right? If you have somewhat of a righteous bone in you, you're gonna be like, yeah, that's allegorical. We gotta cover, we gotta do some damage control. That's all allegorical. We gonna say this all gotta do with creation. Rhea is the water. Rhea is this, Poseidon is the water, Kronos is time, Zeus is the earth. You understand?
Escape clause.
Yeah, we gotta do some damage control real quick.
Right.
Because deep down, you gotta go that hard to explain away what people are clearly reading. Deep down, you're admitting that's wrong, God. Then what we reading is off.
Thanks.
All right. Come on now, let's get it.
Kronos, chapter 13, Kronos and Aphrodite. And the bonds of Kronos are the binding together of heaven and earth. As I have heard others allegorizing, and his mutilation is the separation and parting of the elements. For they all were severed and separated according to their respective natures, that each kind might be arranged by itself. And time no longer begets anything, but the things which have been begotten of it by a law of nature produce their successors. And the Aphrodite who emerged from the sea is the fruitful substance which arises out of moisture, with which the warm spirit mixing causes the sexual desire and perfects the beauty of the world.
Goddess of love and sex.
The goddess. Peleus, Thetis, Prometheus, Achilles, and Polyxena. Dang.
Who said that yesterday? Said y'all these sound like diseases.
Yeah. You heard me? They all sound like STDs.
For real, bro.
Oh, no.
And I got these.
Yeah, you got that Thetis. Got that Peleus.
That Peleus.
Nah, well, you got that package.
You heard me?
Hey.
The whole thing.
You got all the little gods of people. Hey.
For real.
Go ahead, huh?
And the marriage banquet at which Zeus held the feast on the occasion of the marriage of the Nereid Thetis and the beautiful Peleus has in it this allegory, that you may know, Apion, that you are not the only one from whom I have heard this sort of thing. The banquet then is the world, and the 12 are these heavenly props of the fates called the zodiac.
Oh.
Let me read that part again. The banquet then is the fate, is the world, and the 12 are these heavenly props of the fates called the zodiac. Prometheus is foresight, Promethea, by which all things arose. Peleus is clay, Pelos, namely, that which was collected from the earth and mixed with Nereus, or water, to produce man. And from the mixing of the two, water and earth, the first offspring was not begotten, but fashioned complete, and called Achilles.
Wow.
Because he never put his lips chally to the breast. Still in the bloom of life, he is slain by an arrow while desiring to have Polyxena, that is, something other than the truth, and foreign zine to it. Death stealing on him through a wound in his foot.
Yeah, the Achilles heel, that's where you get that saying from.
Everybody know that.
Yeah, that movie Troy, Brad Pitt played Achilles, but they got a series where Achilles is black and he gay as that thing. Straight sodomite. The judgment of Paris. Paris.
Then Hera and Athena and Aphrodite and Eris and the apple and Hermes and the judgment and the shepherd have some such hidden meaning as the following. Hera is dignity. Athena, manliness. All right.
Athena is manliness.
Wow.
Athena is a woman.
Wow.
She is like what is it, like a art, what you call it, like the strategist of war. Like she's like a strategist. Like
Manliness.
Manliness of boy.
What else we got here? Huh?
Aphrodite, pleasure. Hermes, language, which interprets.
Hermeneutics. I'm just saying, like, it's crazy. Hermes is language. Hermeneutics.
Hermeticos. Hermeticos thoughts. The shepherd perished, unseasoned and brutish passion. Now, if in the prime of life, reason, that shepherd of the soul is brutish, does not regard its own advantage, will have nothing to do with manliness and temperance, chooses only pleasure, and gives the prize to lust alone, bargaining that it is to receive in return from lust what may delay it. He who thus judges incorrectly will choose pleasure to his own destruction and that of his friends. That's the gig.
Trip off that.
Mm-hmm.
He said, will have nothing to do with manliness and temperance, chooses only pleasure, and gives the prize to lust alone, bargaining that it is to receive in return from lust what may delight it. He who thus judges incorrectly will choose pleasure to his own destruction and that of his friends. See, like, left up the man, and he gonna choose pleasure and desire every time. He sees no need to, to be disciplined, to be dedicated, right? To bring this bodily vessel under subjection, right? Every wind that blow through you, like, yeah, I'm on that. I'm on that, right? But see, those gods allow that. Those guys allow that. Anything that skip across that plate, you can eat.
They encourage it.
Yeah, they encourage it. Look at this. Go ahead.
And Eris is jealous spite, and the golden apples of the Herbicydes are perhaps riches, by which occasionally even temperate persons like Hera are seduced, and mainly ones like Athena are made jealous, so that they do things which do not become them, and the soul's beauty, like Aphrodite, is destroyed under the guise of refinement. To speak briefly, in all men riches provoke evil discord.
Hercules. Him about to bust dude's head wide open shortly. You know what's coming. Cause he like, look, I know what you're saying. Like, you ain't saying that I don't know. Like, you on that? I know this. All right, go ahead.
And Hercules, who slew the serpent, which led and guarded riches, is the true philosophical reason which, free from all wickedness, wanders all over the world, visiting the souls of men and chastising all it meets, namely men like fierce lions, or timid stag, or savage boar, or multiform hydras, and so with all the other fable labors of Hercules, they all have a hidden reference to moral valor. But these instances must suffice, for all our times would be insufficient if we were to go over each one. They are blameworthy who invented such stories.
Absolutely. So now you know he got to come on outside with it now. Like, we can be all day talking about the breakdowns and what you think that allegorical and philosophical connection is to these wicked stories. But whoever invented these stories are the ones to blame. All right, go ahead, Doc.
Now, since these things can be clearly, profitably, and without prejudice to piety set forth in an open and straightforward manner, I wonder, you call those men sensible and wise who conceal them under crooked riddles.
Under crooked riddles.
There it is.
How are these men sensible and wise? Right? If what you're saying is true, if all this got to do with creation and the separation of elements and time and all that, then how are the men who wrote these stories sensible and wise? Thanks. These are crooked riddles. And they are the ones to blame for how society reacts. Because the majority of society outside of you, Apion, believe this about their gods. So who's to blame? Whoever concocted the story then. Since you claiming it's all an allegory, well, whoever it is, who wrote it then?
Right.
Right? We need to put them to death. We need to bring them up into the judgment seats then. Because the stories that they concocted got society acting just like these so-called gods. What else you say, Al?
And overlaid them with filthy stories, and thus, as if impelled by an evil spirit, deceive almost all men.
Yeah, inspired, impaled by an evil spirit to do that. Think about it. If all of this is as simple as you just said, Apion, it could have been written down like that then.
Right.
It could have simply been written down as easy as you were speaking it. It could have been a scribe right over there writing down everything you said. You see that? So whoever wrote it, it ain't even of their own imagination. An evil spirit. That's why he said the whole invention of this Greek religion and what they worship is the invention of a wicked thing. That's what he said back in Homily 4. That's why. Because whoever wrote these stories down was inspired by an evil spirit to do so. Now that makes more sense.
It does.
Other than, oh, well, only those that were initiated into, our way of life can really understand what these really mean. Meanwhile, the majority of your society is lewd and nude. You see?
Right.
It's real simple. That's why I like it, because with the Nazarene understanding, bro, you can debunk anybody with common sense.
Facts.
That's common sense right there. He just destroyed his whole rundown with common sense. Well, if that's what you're saying, whoever concocted them crooked riddles and them wicked stories are the ones to blame. Because the people are mimicking their gods. What else we got up?
For either these things are not riddles, but real crimes of the gods, in which case they should not have been exposed to contempt, nor should their deeds have been set before men at all as models.
Facts. If these are indeed the deeds of those gods, those deeds should have been covered up. They should have never been allowed. The public should have never been allowed to even read about it. You see why we don't ascribe wickedness to our God, our Creator? Because wickedness is ascribed to those heathen gods. Now, we dare not believe our God does evil, create evil. You saying he like one of these guys right there?
In turn, you're gonna do evil.
Yeah. And when you start doing evil, you're gonna say, well, ain't no free will. So if I'm doing evil, it's because God wanted me to. In essence, you're blaming your maker. See, no, our maker's blameless in everything. He blames. We ain't gonna blame him for nothing. All right, evil is a byproduct of free will. You decide to go against him. You understand? You decide to go against his divine order. That's what you get. See, they can blame their gods, because that's what's written down. Anything written down about our God, we choose not to believe. We choose to follow what Messiah. Messiah say, no, the father of lies is Satan. He was the murderer from the beginning. When he speak of lies, speak of his own. For he's the father of it. He put evil on Slick Willie, not his father. All right? That's why we can't roll with that and claim our God created evil and does evil. In essence, you're blaming him for the evil that happens. And every bit of evil that happened, you got to swallow that and say he did.
Yeah.
You see that? And thinking like that makes you an enemy of him, makes you an outcast from his kingdom. Straight up.
Yep.
No way. No way. Now we're going to make somebody mad with that.
No, man.
Pissing off the right people. It's all good.
You did.
All right, what else to say, Al?
Or things falsely attributed to the gods were set forth in an allegory, and then Apion. They whom you call wise error, in that by concealing under unworthy stories things in themselves worthy, they laid men to sin.
They laid men to sin.
Laid men to sin.
Yeah.
and that not without dishonoring those whom they believe to be God.
Yeah, you ain't even dishonoring these gods because you acting just like them.
Huh.
I mean, whoever concocted these stories, since you say it's all an allegory, they didn't led many to sin. Almost everybody. Because remember, when Rome and Greece was ruling, these were world powers. So their cultures were spread all over.
Yes.
Altars of their gods were all over. Rituals to them gods was all over. And so, you know, them stories was floating around.
Like mud.
Whenever that passion of adultery jumped up in you, you could say, oh, yeah, because Zeus, you know, like, he came down in the form of an eagle and got with an old girl over there. You know what I mean? And his son was born. And, you know, I'm feeling like, you know, I'm feeling froggy. So, you know what I mean? Instead of you coming against that unclean spirit and saying, nah, no, you unclean spirits, you worthy of the pit of hell.
That's right.
Then, I don't know if Clement gonna mention that, but like Zeus and all of them, they was turning into animals and doing something with the animals.
So bestiality is okay too.
Sicko.
You dig? And you got the nerve to call this an allegory. All right, and y'all, the same battle strategy applies with the Kemet cats, because that's what we run into in this community of ours. We run into Kemet. We don't really run into no cats be on that Greek mythology, except for the Negroes unwittingly that's in them fraternities and sororities. Yeah. They unwittingly know. Them Kemet niggas know about they little gods. Hey, it's Heru. It's a Sar. It's a SECT. It's Heru. It ain't Osiris, Isis, and whatever his name is. You know what I mean? It's Heru and it's this and it's all right. What about the story about Paula, you know, what's his name? Heru, and how he got molested by his uncle Set.
And that was on his head or something.
That was into it damaged his record. What about old Leafy? What about old Seedy Lettuce Bess? Huh?
Straight up.
They're gonna say, well, these are allegory. But whoever the hell wrote them damn stories is responsible for the wickedness and the homosexuality and the perversion in ancient Egypt, and for anybody that hold on to that doctrine.
Yes,
why would you mask righteous actions with wicked stories? The masses are gonna copy that.
Yep.
Real simple. You dismantle the whole conversation that quick. That quick.
That common sense kicked in.
And his whole point is to get Clement to come back. Right?
Yeah.
So then it's like, if you say all of that, then it's like I would say, so after you tell me all of that, let's say I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? After you tell me all that, now you telling me I should come back and I should worship water and fire and you know what I'm saying?
Right, because I know these ain't God. That Poseidon and that's Zeus.
Yeah.
That's what I should do. You know, and look, it don't make sense. He actually told him himself, digging his own grave. Yeah. That's why the class is the folly and sin, or the sin and folly of the heathen guy. It's foolishness. It's utter and complete foolishness, and it's wickedness.
Man, you straight brought this out, bro. Me and Uriel was straight talking about. I'm like, bro, I got a class on the Nephilim. You know what I'm saying? I need to get help better on that. And then boom, I'm like, there we go.
That's Ruach. It started the class out with the video.
Yep.
That little Asian cat broke it down too.
Yeah, I was all like, hey, that's what's up.
That's a banker. Hey, go ahead. Hey, salute. Bring it on out.
I'm like, hey,
I ain't mad at you.
That's some heat.
I ain't mad at you, Tucker Chin. Oh, Tucker Chin. I ain't mad at you. Bring it on out, player. All right. So the same. Chapter 18, homily 6. What we got?
Wherefore, do not suppose that they were wise men, but rather evil spirits, who could cover honorable actions with wicked stories, in order that they who wish to imitate their betters may emulate these deeds of so-called gods, which yesterday in my discourse I spoke so freely of, namely their
parasites,
their murders of their children, their incest of all kinds, their shamelessness, adulteries, and countless impurities.
Page 125, Clementine Homily. Imam say, oh, wait, bro. Imam say, I see why these was kept out the scripture. Yeah.
This is going against what they're trying to implement directly.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
The most impious of them are those who wish these stories to be believed, in order that they may not be ashamed when they do the like.
Exactly. Impious mean wicked. The most wicked of them are those who wish these stories to be true. Right? That way, when you act like that, you understand, you could say, you know, I'm free of all charges, because after all, the gods act like that. They would never punish. Why should I be punished? See? That's how you know what we believe is the truth. Because our Elohim, our mighty one, requires a high level of discipline, high level of you bringing this so-called flesh into subjection, prolonged periods of fasting, prolonged periods of prayer and self-reflection, building your inner man, right? Having a one-on-one relationship with his essence, his ruach. Right. You understand? Totally against sex outside of covenant, outside of marriage. How totally against it. You understand? You wonder why. Look at what the flip side is. You can be lewd and nude. Do whatever you want to do. Do whatever the hell you want to do. But deep down, you know that's wrong. There's something wrong with that.
That's what I was just going to say. Is like once you get into this and really get into what the Most High want, even if you don't like it, you can't never say it's wrong. Right. But no matter what, like with all these other guys and stuff like that, okay, it might be some things you like because you like and you lust after, so you agree with. Yeah. But it's some things that you feel is wrong. Yeah. And if there's anything that you feel in your heart is wrong, how do you honor that guy? Right. You know what I'm saying? You saying this guy is doing something wrong in your heart. Yeah. Right. Because you wouldn't do.
Because you wouldn't do that. Yeah. Ain't no way in the world you do. Man, I'm not doing that. Is you crazy? Yeah. Man, is you crazy? Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So he said the most wicked of them are those who wish these stories to be believed or true, in order that they may not be ashamed when they do the like. They can overcome that shameful spirit. Right. But you need that shameful spirit there to check you when you know you're doing what's wrong. Yep. You understand? You need that. So do.
If they had been disposed to act reverently, they ought, as I said a little ago, even if the gods really did the things which are sung of them, to have veiled their indecencies under more seemly stories.
Clement, like, look, you should have reversed what you did. You should have hid wickedness by right stories, seemly stories. Right? If you want to veil or cover up something, cover up wickedness. Exactly. You don't cover up righteousness with wicked stories. Everybody gonna imitate that. Common sense. Yeah. No, you should have, genius. You should have veiled up the wicked stories. Right. You feel me? With righteous stories, and then society would have been mimicking the righteousness. All right. Oh, okay. Well, evil communications corrupt good manners. Right. Remember, he flipped it around and said, "Well, good communications correct evil manners." Common sense. That's right. Common sense. Good communications correct evil manners. Dang. Oh, Clement, trained up by Peter, who was trained by Messiah himself, huh? You heard me? Dang. It's common sense when you get done talking, bro. What we know is common, or what we'll say, Holy Spirit infused. That's what it is. Right. You dig? Because just dealing with, and look, they ain't got no books in front of them. Clement is dismantling this cat just off the top of the dome. Because the Spirit of the Almighty is with him. That's right. And he was trained by a man who had the fiery tongues put on him. A man that got Simon Magus running. Simon Magus running from spot to spot, trying to get ahead of Peter. Right. He did around her preaching the standing man doctrine. Got everybody thinking he Messiah. Peter could found him everywhere he go, shutting him down. And now he got his hitters with him, Clement and them. He like, y'all going out first. I'll be out there next week.
Right.
He got his hitters with him. You know what I mean? And his hitter, Clement, is totally destroying. Wow. Nazarene faith, what it is, real say simplicity and destroy all that, you know, red fish, blue fish, you know, Poseidon is water and Zeus is the earth, and so is fire, hey, whatever. Yeah, whatever you talking. You understand?
And that lustful gay spirit is in the air, man. That's just what they push. That's a long ago, the real city video. And the dude say, so yeah, there was Christ and Lazarus. You remember Lazarus? You know what I'm saying? He said, and he was telling Lazarus, come out. You know where you're going with that, right? So it is. I'm just like, oh man, going on. But it's just like, you know what I'm saying? But like, and that's what it comes down to. It's just like lust and just, you know what I'm saying, bigotry.
Yeah, and everything is over sexualized.
Yeah.
Now, bro, you can't watch nothing on TV without it's some type of sex scene. Everything is over sexualized. Mm-hmm. And that's what the adversary did. He took what the Most High created for reproduction and reversed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and reversed it. You think it's cool to be a nympho.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You think it's cool to be an old Negro that doteth. That's what the Bible says. An old adulterer that doteth. You think that's cool, bro? Look, you make yourself an enemy of the Most High acting like this.
Them some little Greek things. Yeah, nymphs.
Yeah, nymphs. Little nymphs. Little lusters. Little nymphs. Little nymphs running around her. Yeah. And then everything's over sexualized and all that. And you see why, you know, the brothers a lot of kept themselves, you know. Not saying, of course, you got wives and all that. You got to do benevolence, of course. Yeah. You dig? But, bruh, you ain't supposed to be out here just under the whim of a nymph. Yeah. Just, you know, hey, baby, can I have my scrotum so I can go to play some basketball? Oh, yeah. Man, look, you understand? Like, you're supposed to be out here fulfilling and doing the work that the Spirit of the Most High has called you to do. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, you ain't even reached perfection. Here you go, just every pleasure and every desire. That's what the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Samaritans, the fallen angels, that's what they all push. Mm-hmm. You know, your eye desire that, do it. Have at it. All right? This right here is there's a higher calling. We sons of the Most High. We have a divine birthright. But you ain't going to get that being under the bondage of this flesh. You understand? You got to rise above that. You got to rise above that and live like that. You see what I'm saying? Now watch this. Go ahead.
And not on the contrary, as you say they did, when the deeds of the gods were honorable, clothed them in wicked and indecent forms, which, even when interpreted, can only be understood by much labor.
Right. Go ahead.
And when they were understood by some, they indeed got, for their much toil, the privilege of not being deceived, which they might have had without the toil, while they who were deceived were utterly ruined.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Those, however, who trace the allegories to a more honorable source, I do not object to. As, for instance, those who explain one allegory by saying that it was wisdom which sprang from the head of Zeus. On the whole, it seems to me more probable that wicked men, robbing the gods of their honor, ventured to promulgate these insulting stories.
Like, look, man, I think it's wicked men. You know what I mean? Inspired by demons that promulgated these insulting stories. All right. So what he about to get into now is like your little breakdown of the allegories. They not consider. None of these allegories are consistent. I mean, all you gotta do is slow him down and examine his breakdown, and you're gonna see his holes everywhere. Slow him down.
Mhm.
Also, over here you said Zeus was the earth, right? Over here you saying wisdom came out of his skull.
Came out his head.
All you gotta do is slow him down. Slow him down and back him into a corner.
Yeah.
Let's
Which
examine
one
this.
is it?
Yeah, let's examine this. We gotta be critical of this. So none of these allegories are consistent, which means they're not allegories. You understand? Which means no, your gods that you worship and deify. You understand? These so-called gods are wicked, and this whole system is the invention of a so-called demon.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And the more people that reverence and revere these deities, these gods, whatever spiritual system you're talking about, you understand? They mimic them, and the more they mimic them, the more morally corrupt society becomes. Mm-hmm. Look at the fruited birds. What righteousness? What righteousness that come from any of these spiritual systems? None. None of these allegories are consistent. What does it say out?
Mm-hmm. None of nor do we find the poetical allegory about any of the gods consistent with itself. To go no further than the fashion of the universe, the poets now say that nature was the first cause of the whole creation, now that it was mind.
Nature was the first cause of the whole creation, now that it was mind. M-I-N-D. Go ahead.
For say they, the first moving and mixing of the elements came from nature, but it was the foresight of mind which arranged them in order. Even when they assert that it was nature which fashioned the universe, being unable absolutely to demonstrate this on account of the traces of design in the work, they inweave the foresight of mind.
Oh, they added that on there. They inweave this. Because they can't absolutely demonstrate this on account of the traces of design in the work. See, you slow him down and bag him on down. Now you got to inweave, you got to start adding stuff. Oh, no, that's a foresight of mind. Yeah, it's nature, but the mind had foresight first. You don't say. All right, go ahead, out.
Foresight of mind in such a way that they are able to entrap even the wisest. But we say to them, if the world arose from self-moved nature, how did it ever take proportion and shape, which cannot come but from a superintending wisdom, and can be comprehended only by knowledge, which alone can trace such things.
Right. So if the world arose from self-moved nature, like you're saying, right? How did the world ever take its proportion and shape? How did it take its form? How did the seasons and all they get involved in this? You know, what about the hemispheres and the jet streams?
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, there's a lot you got to bring into this creation now.
Yeah.
You just want to talk about nature.
Exactly. You just can't just downplay just because. No.
Yeah. So when you ask the right questions, now they got to start adding stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nature, but by the mind. I got to interweave whose mind?
Right. I thought the wisdom came from his head.
Yeah. Yeah. Who Zeus?
So Zeus mind, right?
Yeah. Zeus got a Louisville slugger to the chrome, to the head. Boy, that's when wisdom leaked out into the atmosphere.
So who hit Zeus with a bat?
Yeah. And before it was just only in his head. So it wasn't no wisdom before that. Wasn't no mind before that.
So how was things being created?
How was things being created?
You know what I'm saying?
Right. It had to be around, bro. I mean, Zeus wasn't the first one. He had a father and siblings, didn't he?
You know what I'm saying?
So none of them knew wisdom.
Yeah, you gotta say that.
All right, what else we got?
Killing yourself.
If on the other hand, it was by wisdom that all things subsist and maintain order, how can it be that those things are crossed from self-moved chance?
These gods, look at this. These gods were really wicked magicians. Hey, let me coming on out with it. That's what I'm talking about. Take your hard-line stance. Call it for what it is.
Then those who chose to make dishonorable allegories of divine things, as for instance, that Metis was devoured by Zeus, have fallen into a dilemma because they did not see that they who in these stories about the gods indirectly taught physics denied the very existence of the gods, resolving all kinds of gods into more allegorical, mere allegorical representation of the various substances of the universe.
You see, now you're in a dilemma. You trapped yourself. You see that? Those who chose to make dishonorable allegories of divine things. And he brings up who? Zeus, that Metis was devoured by Zeus. Metis is his daughter. Zeus ate her. He said, you just put yourself in a trick bag, a dilemma. Because they did not see that they, who in these stories about the gods indirectly taught physics, denied the very existence of the gods. And what we were talking about earlier. These gods are elements. What you talking about?
Actually, all of it really sound like the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that. Bring it out.
Yeah, because it's like if you get it, and I didn't have some talks with some people. Most of them, you know what I'm saying, they say the same thing with what's written down. It's like that chaos that they're talking about is really they explain it as dark waters, but then they say it's nothing. So everything basically came from nothing. You know what I'm saying? And that's the theory of the Big Bang. You know what I'm saying? Everything comes from nothing. So it's just like it sounds right for them to implement that in science because that's the same thing that's being said in the background of Egyptology and in the background of the Greek culture.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Everything comes from nothing or what they call chaos.
Yeah.
You know,
but then you gotta explain divine intelligence. You feel me? Obviously, there's an architect of everything, a designer, an artificer of what we call this earth, this world, this universe. Other than that, you gotta show something blowing up. You understand? And then forming. And obviously, divine things are being formed. You know what I mean? Divine mathematics is at play here. I mean, things are proportioned. Days are fixed. Seasons are fixed. You understand? Like man ain't come out like Quasimodo, the Hunchback of Notre Dame. You know what I mean? Like you got to bring a lot of this stuff into play. Like hold on now. You understand? Whatever this bang is or chaos or nothing you're talking about, there has to be a divine source of intelligence. There has to be a designer. Somebody had to bring the blueprint out.
Has to be an eternal.
Exactly.
Someone that was there.
Exactly.
Superintending knowledge.
Right. So he's saying, look, you put yourself in a trick bag when you're trying to say, you know, with these honorable allegories, saying that Metis was eaten by Zeus, you don't fall into a dilemma, right? Because you're denying the existence of the gods by throwing this allegory and saying, oh, it's allegorical. It got to do with physics. It got to do with, you understand, the elements, water, fire, earth. Oh, with that, you're denying the gods, though.
Straight up.
You see that? By reducing this allegory or reducing this stories we reading into allegorical form, by doing that, you deny the very gods you claim you worship. So because in the allegory, you're explaining these things in physics, in science, in elements. Saying, oh, that's allegorical for the seasons and the water, and the primordial waters, and the fire, and the earth, the ether. That's what he's saying, the ether, the earth, the water, the fire. Well, dummy, you just denied the existence of your gods. Anthropomorphism, something. All right, what else we got?
And so it is more likely that the gods these persons celebrate were some sort of wicked magicians.
Yeah, they were men. Go ahead.
Who were in reality wicked men.
Exactly. Go ahead.
But by magic assumed different shapes, committed adultery, and took away life. And thus to the man of old who did not understand magic seemed to be gods by the things they did. And the bodies and tombs of these men are to be seen in many times.
Man, all them little guys they talk about buried around this earth. They were men who were deified, who were heavy into the black arts and black magic,
So they were,
the dark side. You understand? They was into the spiritual realm, but on the wrong side. Incantation, spells. You dig? Once they die, they become deified.
You know what though? Like even in the Egyptian, I forget which so-called god it was, but one of them in the actual story, it says he was a pharaoh first.
Yeah, I forgot his name.
Yeah, but it said so. It's like if you see that so he was a man.
He's a man. He's buried.
Yeah.
so now he a man, he water that.
Yeah,
It's a headache to me.
yeah. It's confusion, but that's what it is. These are just men they done deified that were in league with these fallen ones. You know, and the fallen ones are spirits out in league with them fallen ones. You understand? Learn incantation, spells, and all that. And that's it. These men became deified, right? After their death. It tell you that in the Apocrypha. It tell you that in the Apocrypha.
Right.
You get to the wisdom of Solomon. All right. It was like, hey, this man, after his death, was taken as a god, but before was just a man.
We think they just stopped at Christ, huh?
Yeah, no, that ain't talking about, man. That ain't just talking about Cesare Borgias. All these little gods who went through that. These was wicked men who had the knowledge of the black arts, the dark arts, magic, and all that. And once they were dead, men deified them. Assigned them places in the heavens. Oh, that's the constellation this, that's the star that. Wrote different folklores about him. Wasn't lying. That man was an adulterer. He was wicked.
Right.
He was in the pederasty and pedophilia and bestiality. You see? Here you go trying to explain it away. Nah, play. You can't explain that away. Because in your allegory, when you bring an allegorical story to it, you're explaining away the existence of your gods by doing that. These was wicked men that was heavy in the magic.
Yep.
And they tombs are still in this earth. You put that up, the tomb of Zeus.
Oh, yeah.
That was right on time in the chat. It said, the burial place of Zeus. I say, wow. There it is. All right, what we got? Their graves are still to be seen.
For instance, as I have mentioned already, in the Caucasian mountains, there is shown the tomb of a certain Kronos.
Look, in the Caucasian mountains. Because you know it's the Caucasus.
You hear me?
The Caucasus. They call them the Caucasian mountains. Okay. That's where Kronos buried at, y'all. Kronos is buried in the Caucasus Mountains. What else?
A man and a fierce monarch who slew his children.
That's what happened. So when you got the myth that he ate his children, oh, that man slew his children. He was a monarch, a king. Go ahead.
And the son of this man called Zeus became worse than his father. And having by the power of magic been declared ruler of the universe, he committed many adulteries and inflicted punishment on his fathers and uncles, and so died.
So Zeus died?
So
Zeus was a man. Did worse than his father.
He's in the kingdom tripping, huh?
You heard me? Dang. All right. And so died. Go ahead.
And the Cretans show his tomb.
Oh, so Zeus buried in Crete. Man, look, I didn't even know these jokers was men. I didn't even know that at first.
It's crazy, man.
I mean, I understood their connection to the fallen ones and all that.
Yeah.
But these jokers is men that live this earth.
I understood that they so-called children, like the demigods or whatever. I think I felt like they were men and Nephilim. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I didn't try that.
Dang, these jokers buried in the earth.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then Darius said that through the chat yesterday, the burial place of Zeus. I say, wow, good night. There it is. That proves that homilies is very accurate. Ain't nobody talking about the burial place of the gods.
You know what I mean?
And the funny thing is, they ain't even hiding it too hard. We just ain't looking for it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? That's all that is.
Dang, son. All right, so the Cretans show its tomb. What else we got?
And in Mesopotamia, there lie buried a certain Helios at a tier.
That's where you get helium from. The element helium. Helios is another man who was deified as a god. Is buried in Mesopotamia. What else we got?
And a certain Selene at Carhae. Is that it? Is that the name? Carhae?
I guess so, yeah.
All right. A certain Hermes, a man, lies buried in Egypt.
Oh, wow. Probably one of them pyramids.
So they buried a Greek god in Egypt.
That's how we know it's the same system. Old Greek buried in Kemet. Hotep, brother. All right, go ahead.
Ares in Thrace.
In Thrace, wow.
In Thrace.
Go ahead.
Aphrodite in Cyprus.
Wow.
Asclepius.
And Scalpius.
His Scalpius.
One got his scalp peeled, man. Oh, it's Scalpius. It's Scalpius. Where he at?
In Epidaurus.
Wow.
And the tombs of many other such persons are to be seen.
Man, these was men that was heavy in the magic. That was wicked as all hell and was just deified. That's it. That's it. They was in cahoots with them fallen ones. Tapped into the wrong spirits. And was performing all type of magic and witchcraft in front of the people. And the people, being superstitious, took them as gods. Their actions were written down, truthfully. You understand? And men began to copy it. It's only later when people was like, hey, hold on. Your gods is doing what? Oh, them allegories. Them all, they try to get ahead of it. Nah, Jack. Now, them is men y'all done deified. Who was wicked? Yeah, they was wicked. Right. The contemporaries, therefore, did not look on them as gods. Meaning the people that lived with them. The people that knew them. Boy, that's a Leroy.
Oh, that boy over there practicing that dark magic.
That's Leroy. That's Leroy. That's little Leroy. You know about Leroy be stealing everybody's bike rider?
Don't pay him no mind.
You mean tell me Leroy became a god after he was dead, man? Dang, dog. All right, so they people that knew them didn't look on them as gods. This only accomplished or happens years later, man. All right, go ahead.
Thus, to the right thinking men, it is clear that they were admitted to be mortals. And their contemporaries, knowing that they were mortal. When they died, they paid them no more heed.
They ain't paid them no more heed. Boy, Leroy dead. Boy, don't that boy have stealing all them bikes? Breaking in them houses?
Just like I forgot what his name was. He was a king somewhere. And he used to it sounded like his name sounded like Dracula. I know that. But he was a king and he used to drink the blood of his enemies. Yeah. And he had a real bad skin condition. He was he had a real bad skin condition, so he couldn't bear the sun. You know what I'm saying? And then the stories of vampires and Dracula came out of there. And he was this big, scary dude. Yeah. You know.
Crazy.
Yeah,
he's supposed to be like a vampire guy. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, the same thing happened here. Yeah. Man, that's Leroy. That Leroy with that dermatitis. Right. Badass skin. Nigga can't be in the sun. Now he's Dracula.
Yeah, he's Dracula.
Man, look. Now our class is the folly and sin of these heathen gods, bro. For real. Yeah, dermatitis.
Who was worshipped.
You heard me? I won't be near him, y'all.
The swelling of the skin.
You heard me?
We got dropsies around here, man. So what is going on here? Vlad the Impaler. That was his name. Vlad the Impaler. Man. Crazy, man. And all right, come on, bro.
When they died, when they died, paid them no more heed. And it was length of time which clothed them with the glory of gods. Nor need you wonder that they who lived at the times of Asclepius and Hercules were deceived.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the contemporaries of Dionysus, or any other of the men of that time, when even Hector and Ilium and Achilles and the islands of Luz are worshipped by the inhabitants of those places, and the Opportunists worship Patroclus, and the Rhodians Alexandra of Macedonia.
Ah, who was Alexander of Macedonia? Alexander the Greek,
The
son
Greek.
of Philip of Macedonia. See, he became worshipped after he God after he died.
After he died. Deified.
Deified, deified after he died. The Egyptians pay divine honors to a man. Look at this. Well, it's gonna hurt a whole bunch of kids. The comedians. That's gonna hurt their feelings, here, boy.
Yeah, like I said, that's the funny thing though. They talk about, but it's glossed over. It's glossed over. He was a king. Then he was killed, and then
God.
Yeah.
He took his place in he graduated.
Yeah.
Took his place amongst the stars.
Wow.
The Giza pyramid point toward him.
Wow. Everybody wanted to come start today.
You know
Wow.
what I'm saying?
What we got?
Moreover, among the Egyptians, even the present day, a man is worshipped as a god before his death. And this truly is a small impiety, that the Egyptians give divine honors to a man in his lifetime. But what is of all things most absurd is that they worship birds and creeping things, bugs, and all kinds of beasts. For the mass of men neither think nor do anything with discretion.
No discretion. No spiritual discernment. They worshiping bugs, cockroaches, all of it. Good Lord.
Little beetle things on the mummy.
Yeah.
But look, I pray you at what is most disgraceful of all. He who is with them, the father of gods and men, is said by them to have had intercourse with Leda. And many of them set up in public a painting of this, writing above it the name Zeus, to punish this insult. I could wish that they would paint their own present king in such base embraces as they have dared to do with Zeus, and set it up in public, that from the anger of a temporary monarch and him a mortal, they might learn to render honor where it is due. This I say to you, not as myself already knowing the true God, but I am happy to say that even if I do not know who is God, I think I at least know clearly what God is.
Straight up. The God ain't that. Whatever you Greeks and Romans is doing, he ain't that.
Right.
I know that much. Coming from Clement.
That's real.
Clement, right? So chapter 24 says, what is not the Almighty?
And first, then the four original elements cannot be God.
Flat out. Just come on out and say it.
Because they have a cause.
Go ahead.
Nor can that mixing be God.
Come on.
Nor that compounding. Nor that generating. Nor that globe which surrounds the visible universe. Nor the dregs which flow together in Hades. Nor the water which floats over them, nor the fiery substance, nor the air which extends from it to our earth. For the four elements, if they lay outside one another, could not have been mixed together so as to generate animal life without some great artificer.
Right. Still gotta be an artist. Somebody still gotta be a divine intellect to put everything together so divinely and perfectly, don't?
Yeah, that's true. Like, so that's just to say, well, if you know what I'm saying, if I find some way to put some water and some fire and so and so, and I just let it sit there, eventually it's gonna become something.
That's what they were saying,
Yeah.
right? Or just take it to something like, okay, paint. See, I got my red paint, my blue paint, my yellow paint, my white paint. Right? But they're saying through their logic, the red, blue, yellow, and white paint is God.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? But it take an artist to grab that paintbrush, dip it in them colors, mix the colors, and do what to the canvas?
Right.
Paint the canvas.
Right.
See, under their logic, you understand them explaining the stories of their gods in allegory, they reduced it to what? They reduced them down to elements. Well, the elements can't be God. Nor the mixing of them, nor the compound of them. There has to be someone there as the artist.
Yep.
Someone has to be the creator that's going to use these elements to construct such a perfect universe, a perfect creation.
Made for life.
Yeah.
Super
Yeah.
understanding wisdom.
So with them, they're saying the paint is God. But the paint ain't getting up off that palette onto that canvas without an artist. Common sense, huh?
Yes, sir.
Common sense destroy it all, huh?
Ain't that common?
Yeah. Go ahead, Doc. What we got?
If they have always been united, even in this case, they are fitted together by an artistic mind to what is requisite for the limbs and parts of animals, that they may be able to preserve their respective proportions, may have a clearly defined shape, and that all the inward parts may attain the fitting coherence. In the same way, also the positions suitable for each are determined, and that very beautifully by the artificer mind. To be brief, in all other things which a living creature must have, this great being of the world is in no respect wanting.
Flat out.
Facts.
Right.
That's confusion at its finest.
They didn't mess around and, describe their gods in allegorical form and reduce them to elements. You feel me? And the uniting of elements. And he like, look, you just hung yourself. For one, you've been covering righteous stories according to you with wicked stories, or righteous deeds with wicked fables. Right? Whoever wrote it had to be under the inspiration of a demon. Two, you reduce through these allegories, you reduce your gods to elements. Water, sun, earth. You understand? And call them the God or the Most High. Well, them by themselves can't be. It's impossible. You understand? Because they still need an artificer. They need an artist. They need a divine mind that's going to properly mix them and properly apply them to create such a divine creation. They destroy themselves. Right? So the universe is the product of the mind. Chapter 25. Look at that. We get deeper. And look, y'all, this is Peter's understudy breaking this off. This ain't even K-5. He finally arrives the next chapter. All right? This is Clement breaking it off. You feel me? Who was trained by Peter, who was trained by Messiah. You understand? And what he bringing out totally destroys the very system and society that he was brought up in. And again, he wasn't even no common Roman. He was related to the Caesars. You see what I'm saying? So it don't benefit him nothing at all on a worldly level to, to leave all that prestige and all that money and all that power. So I'm following this poor, righteous teacher whose master was crucified under one of our Roman governors in Palestine decades ago. He has the words of living life. You understand? I'm about to follow him for years and watch him debate, chronicle his writings, send what he teaches back to Yaakov, James, and Just, so it all can be documented. Right now, you know it ain't no lie. Look, what he got a lie for? What is written down destroys the very society he's from.
Yes, sir. So he does.
So what? How is this? This can't be a lie. Then.
You know what I'm saying?
It destroys the very Roman belief that he was brought up in. It even destroys it today.
Yeah. So now you can look it up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Look up the same information.
Yeah. Once you realize that the whole Roman pantheon ain't nothing but the Greek pantheons coming back from Egypt and the fallen angels. When you realize all the Colosseums and all that was converted into the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican. You know what I mean? And all they gods became the quote unquote saints.
Right.
All Saints Day. It's mass paganism. But the Clementine, who was related to the Caesars, his teachings, which come from Peter, which come from Messiah, destroy all that. So why you think it ain't in the Bible then? It goes against the Roman agenda. Even not the eating of the flesh, he go hard against that. Hard body against it. Like, man, you ain't supposed to be chewing on that. So the universe is the product of the mind. Look at this.
Thus, we are shut up to the supposition that there is an unbegotten artificer.
Right, unbegotten artist, meaning he has no beginning. Another way to say the Almighty. Right? All of us been begotten.
Yes, sir.
Meaning there's a Father that begot us. Right? The Most High is unbegotten. There's an unbegotten artist. Clement is saying. Of creation, of the universe. Go ahead.
I think that's why people, these heathens, be making up stuff like, because they can't really explain it, but they be making up stuff like paradoxes. You know what I'm saying? Which is another thing they can't explain, but it's just like, it's just something to throw out there. Like,
you just came up with a saying that can't be explained.
So this person did this, but he went back in time to do this, to do this. You know what I'm saying? Just like
more confusion.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah. It's not an answer, it's just more confusion stacked on top of confusion.
Right.
What else you say, huh?
Or, I'm sorry. I say, thus are we shut up. We are shut up to the supposition that there is an unbegotten artificer who brought the elements together if they were separate, or if they were together, artistically blended them so as to generate life, and perfected from all one work. For it cannot be that a work which is completely wise can be made without a mind which is greater than it.
Makes sense. Makes sense, don't it? A work that is completely wise can be made without a mind which is greater than it. It cannot be. Straight up. It has to be a mind. It has to be an artist. It has to be someone behind the work. If creation is a work, in which it is, then somebody worked it. Somebody created it. Go ahead, Al.
Nor will it do to say that love is the artificer of all things, or desire, or power, or any such thing. All these are liable to change and transient in their very nature.
Yeah, power, emotion, desire. All these are emotions. And emotions come and go, don't they?
Yeah.
All right. All those change. Our power don't change. All right, go ahead.
Nor can that be God, which is moved by another.
Go ahead.
Much less what is altered by time and nature, and can be annihilated.
Can't be of God, or can't be him.
All your guys dying and all that.
Yeah, moved by another. It's altered by time and nature. It can be annihilated. Can't be the Almighty then. Shut him on down. Now here comes K-Fop, Peter, right? Look at this.
While I was saying these things to Apion, Peter drew near from Caesarea. And in Tyre, the people were flocking together, hurrying to meet him and unite in an expression of gratification at his visit. And Apion withdrew.
Out of her.
He said, yeah, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And accompanied Anubian and Athenodorus only. But the rest of us hurried to meet Peter, and I was the first to greet him at the gate, and I led him towards the inn. When we arrived, we dismissed the people, and when he deigned to ask what had taken place, I concealed nothing, but told him of Simon's slander and the monstrous shapes he had taken, and all the diseases he had sent after the sacrificial feast.
And all that flesh they was eating was what Hebrews claim today is lawful.
Mm-hmm.
Slaying an ox, he wasn't even slaying no pig. See, table fellowship is important. We got to be very careful who we share our table with. You understand? That's just what it is. And through that, they was just table fellowship, and through that, they brought themselves in bondage willingly to these so-called devils. All right, what else you say?
And that if the sick persons were still there,
and that what does it say?
And that some of the sick persons were still there in Tyre, while others had gone with Simon to Sidon, just as I arrived, hoping to be cured by him, but that I had heard that none of them had been cured by him.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, of course not.
Mm-hmm.
Of course not. He ain't got the authority.
Yeah.
He there to make you sick, not heal you.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Another thing, they probably not only we know that it also grows little worms and stuff because the demon grows in the flesh, but I mean they probably more than likely, just like the wicked magicians of old, purposely putting the worm in the flesh.
Yeah.
Just to throw it out on the market.
Yeah.
I also told Peter of the controversy I had with Apion, and he, from his love to me and desiring to encourage me, praised and blessed me. Then, having supped, he betook himself to the rest. The fatigues of his journey rendered so necessary.
All right, so that right there, y'all, that's the end of Homilies 6, I believe it is. We're probably getting to 7. I think we got into 7 not that long ago, though. The reason for Simon's power, I think we did 7, 8, 9. He did, but we, ain't nothing to go back over it. And he gonna go into the golden rule. Yeah, we've been over this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And how these idols, what Simon did right here, he had sacrificed an ox. See? Yeah, right? Sacrifices, all of them. All right, so we'll get into it because you never can go over it enough. You did. All right, so our praises, we're gonna go ahead and pray on. Now, what y'all think though, brothers? Man, look.
Confusion in this thing.
It is, man. A lot of madness, a lot of confusion. You dig?
Very
but
fallen angels.
I like how common sense destroys it all.
Yeah, most definitely.
All you gotta do is just common sense. They can go all over they want with them fancy words and allegories and all that. Yawn. When you done talking, you just buried yourself. Right? You got a lot of explaining to do. You feel me?
Especially on that Egyptology topic.
Man,
that's
man.
And they agree. This saying they all like compared together too, like basically the same. It's mashed differently. And stuff. Oh yeah, that's like
that's easy work. And then you can find all them stories about them Egyptian boy, all them gay stories of Horus and Set and all that. Boy, let me see something. Y'all got me amped.
I'm like,
it's as simple as typing in homosexual.
And then they got the kings buried, and they showed us where they buried it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
The Greek gods.
Yeah, the Greek gods were men.
Uh-huh.
Egyptian gods, Horus. and SECT. That was his name. I couldn't figure out his name.
Set.
Yeah, Horus.
Yeah. Yeah.
This deal say the LGBT Egyptian gods, the advocate. Horus verse 7, homosexuality, hippos, and familial violence. Good night. The secret gay history of ancient Egypt.
Like, no,
Wow.
Like, nah, bro, that's
Dang, dog.
And it said that like right after, and I actually never even read it. It said that right after I was talking about, I'm like they story tell of a pharaoh becoming a god,
Yeah.
or being a god before he even died. You know what I'm saying? They tell of that. Then Clement hit it.
Yeah.
He said the same thing.
Yeah.
He ain't mentioned the name, but you know what I'm saying. He said the same thing. They stories say it. So you worshiping a man.
Straight up.
Boy, it's crazy.
Straight up, man. Utter madness. Yeah. Further proof, you know what we talking about is real. You understand?
We all just mad differently. That's crazy.
That's all it is.
Dang. They got a straight dark magicians in this motherfucker.
Right.
That's crazy. I'm like, and then it's like other people following it, and then it's like the mass they showing that to the public. Oh yeah, but that's what we can do, boy.
Yeah, man. Let's go. We can look at some of this. It's an article from 2019. Show y'all some of this, man. Further proof that the homilies is true. All right. Further proof. We ain't playing no game. You don't play no game no more.
You remember?
You get the bust your head if you. All right. All right. Let me go ahead and put this article in the chat so y'all can have it. We ain't camera shy. We always transparent. Show y'all that though. All right.
So that somebody said a minute ago today should buy the Tuesday.
I don't claim to be the all wise, brother.
Right.
I don't know. It depends on what calendar you're going off of. All right, Horus verse 7, homosexuality, hippos, and familiar violence. Look at these heathens to the right, sipping out the same cup.
Boy, it's fruity.
The Egyptian myth described the contenders of Horus and Seth is as graphic as it is bizarre. All right. All right, Osiris ruled as Pharaoh of Egypt with his sister wife. Wow, Isis. Bringing peace and prosperity to the land. But his elder brother Seth, or Set, became insanely jealous and led Osiris to a watery death after tricking him into a perfectly fitted coffin. The story of how he chopped his brother into pieces, which Isis hunted down to reassemble, is a tale for another blog post. This one deals with the power struggle that ensued between the two contenders for the throne, the murderous Seth and Osiris' son, the falcon-headed Horus. The story is told in the Chester Beatty Papyrus, number 1. So now you know where to go find it. Chester Beatty. The contenders of Horus and Seth, which dates back to the early Middle Kingdom. Look at this, y'all. 2040 through 1674 before the Common Era. Now, let's go back 4,000 years.
Oh, yeah, these people were sick back in the day. Yeah. Real.
So this ain't nothing that just was made up because somebody hate Egypt.
You know what I'm saying?
This was around during Moses' time. Yeah. The myth most likely has origins even earlier than that. Yeah. Be warned. Parts of this twisted tale get quite graphic.
Bring it out.
That's supposed to be Isis and Horus on his mama's lap. Seth argues that Horus cannot be king because his breath stinks, an allusion to Horus breastfeeding from his mother Isis, and a dig at his youth. The battle to become Pharaoh of Egypt. As the son of Osiris, Horus presented his claim to the throne to a tribunal of 3 of the most powerful deities in the Egyptian pantheon: the sun god Ra, aka Re, Thoth, the god of wisdom, and Shu, the god of earth. Thoth and Shu declared Horus the rightful ruler of Egypt. But Ra argued that Seth was more powerful and therefore deserved the throne. The throne is mine by virtue of my strength, Seth said. Let Horus prove that he is better than I, and he can have the throne. Challenge me to what you will. I will prove you the weaker, Horus declared. Hold on, y'all. Okay. Much like the shape-shifting Egyptian gods, Horus and Seth, these hippos battle for dominance. Hippos holding their breath. Seth decided that the first feat of strength would be to have them both turn into hippopotami and sit on the bottom of the Nile. Shape-shifting, huh? Mm-hmm. The first to come up for air would lose. Isis desperately wanted her son to be pharaoh, magically created a copper harpoon, which she threw into the water. Her aim was off, though, and she hit Horus instead of Seth. Realizing this, she pulled free the harpoon and cast it back into the water. This time it sunk into the body of Seth. But the injured god appealed to Isis as her brother, and she caved and helped him. Horus, enraged, emerged from the water. He wasn't worried about losing the first challenge. He was focused on taking revenge on his mother for what he felt was a betrayal. Horus cut off Isis' head, carried it up a mountain, and tossed it away. Talk about mama issues. Fear not, though. Thoth picked up Isis' head and reunited it with her body. Homosexual incest and semen-covered lettuce. Tired from decapitating his mother, Horus went to sleep on the mountaintop. Seth snuck up and gouged out his nephew's eyes, burying them in the ground. Overnight, they grew into lotuses. Taking pity on the blinded boy, the cow-headed goddess, Hathor, came to Horus' aid, pouring gazelle milk on his wounds and restoring his sight. The judges wanted the two gods to make amends. They did reconcile, but the wily Seth decided to seduce his nephew. Yeah. Seth wasn't discriminate in his liaisons. In the world of ancient Egypt, there wasn't any real conception of homosexuality. What mattered was who was the top, the one who was doing the penetrating. Oh. As that proved dominance over the other person. Man, this is beyond evil. This at the bottom says Seth really liked salad. Only that wasn't ranch dressing on it.
You know where that term came from?
Got a salad tossed. Mm-hmm. Now afterwards, at the evening time, bed was prepared for them and they both lay down. But during the night, Seth caused his phallus to become stiff and inserted it between Horus' thighs. Then Horus placed his hands between his thighs and received Seth's semen. Horus went to tell his mother Isis, "Help me, Isis, my mother, come and see what Seth has done to me." And he opened his hands and let her see Seth's semen. She let out a loud shriek, seized the copper knife, cut off his hand that were equivalent. Then she fetched some fragrant ointment and applied it to Horus' phallus. She caused it to become stiff and inserted it into a pot, and he caused the semen to flow down into it. So to sum this up, Seth intended to humiliate his nephew by being intimate him up the rectum. But Horus secretly caught Seth's semen in his hands. When young Horus showed his mother Isis what had happened, she cut off her son's hands, aroused him, jerked him off into a jar. Not quite a Disney movie. And y'all, and so on. These gods, whether we talking about Greece, Rome, Egypt, whatever, y'all, it's all evil. It's all wickedness. And you know what the cat that's in the Egypt gonna tell you today? That was just an allegory. Woo. That really don't mean that. That got to do with the elements, the ether. That really don't mean that. That got to do with the water and the fire. That really is all an allegory, YAH'KI. It's all about physiology. Only the initiated can understand the mysteries of those stories. I reply, why would you hide a veil of righteousness with wicked fables? Because guess what? The people who worship those gods imitate what they read and hear.
You don't get no wickedness from my mystery. Even though you don't understand it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know?
Right. So look, man, all praise and glory now to the Most High.
All praise.
Glad my brothers came on through today. Y'all
Yes, sir.
already know. All right, the wickedness and folly of the heathen gods. All right. Part 1, 2, and 3 with a homily 4, 5, got all the way through 6. All right. And again, y'all, them homilies, let me see yours real quick, brother. All right, for y'all that ain't got the Clementine homilies, y'all go get that. You understand? First century documentation dealing. These are Peter's journals, also the Nazarene Acts of the Apostles. All right. Peter's journals. You need to know how to battle. All right. You need to know how to defend the teachings of the Messiah. All right. We need that. No matter what contradictions or what tampering is going on out there, the Messiah still left blueprint on how to defend his teachings. So I personally believe that Clementine, all of it, the Nazarene Act, I believe all that's curriculum. All right. Like when you read, how much was this on Amazon for you?
It was like probably like $20.
Yeah, it's a few dollars, man. It ain't much. A very great investment.
Extremely.
All right. So get these and and the other things we talking about. And check on in. Classes incessant. All praise and glory now to the Most High. All praise.
Praise.
All good. We gotta just pray on out though. Let's get it done. Yeah, man, that Egyptian stuff, bro. You dig?
$24.
Huh? $24. Clementine homilies are $24 on Amazon, y'all. Paperback. Pretty sure that the whole copy is serious business. Yeah, that'd be almost $1,000. All right. So let's get it done, man. Let's pray on out. All praise and glory now to the Most High. All right. Bang, bang, bang. Ding, ding, ding. All right. Let's see what's going on. All right, let's get her done, y'all.
Every night.
Oh, man.
All praise and glory now to the Almighty. Yeah, the Clementine go hard, man.
Yeah.
It really does. Go hard. Get some understanding. You feel me? Even down to the tamperings in the scriptures. You know what I'm saying? Tell you how you're supposed to be looking at the Almighty, how you're supposed to believe Him.
Yeah.
Be righteous, all powerful, all knowing. You understand? Merciful. That He is a God of judgment, though. Judgment will come. If there wasn't no such thing as judgment, there would be no reason to be righteous.
I told you, Cheryl, one day, the revelation I had got, like on praying. This is just something I had got a little bit, and I was like, what if praying on your knees is just like that's more like supplication, like you asking for something, and you know what I'm saying, and you trying to get something, like you trying to humble yourself. And then I was reading another time where he was like, stand. He said, put your hands up and stand as the trunk of a tree. You know what I'm saying, like and put your hands out like it's branches. You know what I'm saying, and that's when you give me praise. And it was just like, so, I kind of put those two things together.
Hey, man, look. Hey, knowledge is definitely increasing. More and more revelation. You understand? So, man, all praise and glory now to the Almighty, brother. All praise and glory now to the Most High. All right, let's get her done, my brothers. All right. Heavenly Father, Yahweh El Elyon. We come to you in the name, power, and authority of Yahushua HaMashiach, Yahushua HaNazarene. We summon and call for Ruach HaKodesh, your fiery Holy Spirit, to touch every mind, body, and spirit that is present, and that He give every one of us a personal encounter to do His will. We take authority over the fallen one and all his evil spirits from our position at the right hand of you, Yahweh. Seated above every name that is named, in the power and the authority of Ha'adon, the Master, Yahushua HaMashiach, Yahushua HaNazarene, Malek Yahudim. Use us as your battle axe and weapons of war to come against an attack, to break the back and bind the strong man powerless. Bind the strong man powerless over every heathen nation that is oppressing your precious 12 tribes of Israel this very second. We cast them down and we cast them out into a herd of swine in the name, in the power, and the authority of Yahushua HaNazarene, Malek Yahudim, Yahushua HaMashiach, and by His mighty eternal spirit we pray. Use us. Use us as your battle axe and weapons of war. We loosen all your ministering angels of warfare. Send forth your weapons of mass destruction. Send forth your most militant and elite angelic warriors to break the backs and crack the skulls of every ruler of darkness. To break the backs and crack the skulls of every principality over all the worldwide organizations. The 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati, the Rothschild bloodline, the Astor bloodline, the Bundy bloodline, the Collins bloodline, the DuPont bloodline, the Freeman bloodline, the Kennedy bloodline, the Lee bloodline, the Onassis bloodline, the Rockefeller bloodline, the Russell bloodline, the Van Dunn bloodline, and the Merovingian bloodline, the House of Saud over Saudi Arabia, the House of Windsor, all the popes, all the Ayatollahs, every street gang and drug cartel, the Illuminati, the Council on Foreign Relations, all the wicked heathens, all the ruler of darkness. We bind all of them powerless. We bind the strong man over all Masonic orders and every religion, the Catholic Church in Vatican City, communist empires and Yahweh's governments, the Illuminati, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the World Council of Churches, the Americas, all the common market nations, Canada and Mexico, every organization, every religion and organization that has rituals that are contrary to the spoken word of Yahweh and the authority and the power in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, Yahushua Nazarene, Melech Yahudim. We take authority over all foul and evil spirits, authorities, princes, kings, powers, world rulers, and the highest and mightiest servants of Satan. We bind them to be powerless. We bind them to be powerless in the mighty name of Yahushua HaMashiach, Yahushua Nazarene, Melech Yahudim, Yahweh, the authority of Ha'adon, Yahushua HaMashiach. We pronounce the judgment. We pronounce the judgment written in the scriptures upon all these evil and greedy conspirators, the Bill and Melinda Gates of this world, the Anthony Fauci's of this world. We pronounce the judgments written in the scriptures upon these evil and greedy conspirators in and over these worldwide organizations. As it is written, Yah, send forth your unsheathed sword and cut them down. Send forth your fire from your fiery throne and cut them down. Confound all your enemies, Heavenly Father. Every prayer, every bewitchment, every curse, every seduction sent against us, every plan, every plot, every scheme of the adversary sent against us. We strike dead from your right hand. We cut down with your unsheathed sword, and we command it to boomerang. We commanded the boomerang back to whomever sent it. For your word says, touch not your anointed, and do your flock no harm, Heavenly Father. We bring before your throne all the flock, all the sick in Israel, all the sick who believe in thy holy name. And we touch and agree to come against COVID-19. We touch and agree to come against every plague, every cancer, every bodily plague, every unclean spirit. We bind them up with cords that can't be broken. We wire to jar these devils, and we command them to come forth, and we order them back to the gates of darkness where they belong. For the gates of hell will never prevail against your flock, against the remnant of your flock, your beloved sons and your beloved daughters and our children. We cover with your eternal spirit, Heavenly Father. We mark every doorway and window to our houses and to our cars and to our mind, body, and spirits with your fiery Holy Spirit, with Ruach HaKodesh, Heavenly Father. We come against every mental disorder in this very hour. We come against dementia. We come against bipolarism. For as far as we concerned, they all devils. We bind them up. Heavenly Father, send forth your lightnings and arrows. Scatter and destroy these devils. We bind them up. We wire their jaws. And we order them back to the gates of hell where they belong. We order them back to the pits of darkness where they belong. For the gates of hell will never prevail. We come against every plan, every plot, every scheme of the kingdom of darkness. Every plan, every plot, every prayer, every curse, every bewitchment, every seduction, every enchantment. We strike dead with your unsheathed sword. Send forth chaos. We call for and command chaos into the midst of Satan's camp. Send forth chaos. Turn their tongues on one another. Confuse their counsels. Set ambushments, Heavenly Father. When we show up for the war, we show up for the spoils of war. In the power, name, and authority of Yahushua HaMashiach, we command peace within our realm. We command health within our realm. We command wisdom, knowledge, understanding, your counsel, your might, the fear of Yahweh El Elyon, and the spirit of Yahweh El Elyon. All the spirits that comprise of Ruach HaKodesh, we command that within us, and we call for the blessings of Deuteronomy 28 to chase us down and overtake us. We choose to live like your divine sons and daughters this very hour, Heavenly Father. We choose to live fearless out here. We choose to conquer every plague and every disease and every bug these devils are creating in these labs and unleashing in this earth. We come against them from your right hand. We bind them up from the seat of Mashiach, Yahushua, the Nazarene. We bind them up. We strike them dead with your fiery spirit. We call for the whips and chains of fire for the neck and for the back of Satan. We unleash the fire of Ruach HaKodesh after every ruler of darkness, every prince of darkness, and all their servants. We declare them dead right now, from the highest heaven, in the power, in the name, and the authority of Yahushua HaMashiach. Heavenly Father, be hostile toward the kingdom of darkness. Assign your sword to cut them all down, to cut them insane, to cut them in twain, to bind them up. For guess what? They have no power. They have no right of claim. They have no jurisdiction. For we are covered, not with their covering. We are covered with your eternal spirit. In the power, name, and authority of Yahushua HaMashiach, Yahushua Nazarene, Malek Yahudim, we pray and we declare war against the kingdom of darkness. Hallelujah! 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 Praise the mighty Yah! Oh, oh, praise! Oh, praise! You know, praise!
I like that one right there.
Yes, sir.
Come back and bind him on up. Yeah, we gotta go to war.
I'm getting the imagination going. I'm picturing the angels coming down with arrows.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I'm saying? Just put on picture the spirit realm as the prayer going.
You know what I'm saying?
Make it happen in reality.
Yeah.
I'm harmonizing that.
Yeah, that's right. Call for his sword, cut him down. Unleash your weapons of mass destruction. That's how we gotta be. You understand? Prayers of warfare. These witches outside, we outside even harder. You understand? Coming against me. Y'all got any last words, brothers? Talk to me.
Oh man, it's a beautiful lesson, man. Another.
Yeah, definitely was.
Thank you, Lord, for moving through you, brother.
I pray for the Most High.
I think that spirit been coming through to talk about these Nephilim too. Rob was just saying he was talking about it with Uriel, and then I was talking about it last night with Charles and young Yeshua, and then I was talking about it with the Ribs, and because she was asking certain questions about certain things,
right?
And she wasn't even looking at the class, it was just, you know what I'm saying. But it's just like the topic, you know what I'm saying. The same spirit is just floating. You know
That's what I'm saying. There are no mistakes.
Yeah.
Ain't no mistakes in this. Believe that, know that.
Man, I was letting that rule. Like I was talking about saying, bro, I need to know a little better information about the Nephilim, and boom.
See, and I didn't even know y'all was talking about that. You know what I'm saying? You gotta call it for what it is. Most times, Ruach is moving.
So it is, bro.
It's moving. You dig? Here we go talking about it.
Right. See? I was like, oh yeah, that's harmony right there.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So it was like, yeah, bro. People coming here. That's all I say. Yo.
That's right. You know that's right, brother. That's right. All praises. All right. We all good. Well, I mean, we ain't got nothing else. All praises. Look, we love y'all indeed and in truth. Understand that and know that. We here to support our brothers and sisters. Again, we're not looking for no students. All right. But we here to glean off one another. How the Most High is dealing with you, brother, or you, sister. Every last one of us can glean off that, meaning we can take something from that and apply that to our personal lives and affect righteous change.
That's right.
You understand?
Right.
Yeah, we ain't in bondage. We ain't looking for no slaves.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't looking for no students. You understand? We here to glean and grow in faith.
That's right.
Hey, if y'all need brothers and sisters to pray with y'all, you email us prayer requests. You understand?
Thanks.
Most High been casting down that COVID off brothers too.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Certain people ain't even part of the assembly, but reach out for prayer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We get on the phone. What?
Let's
What
get it.
you mean?
Yeah.
And he been casting that sucker down. You know what I mean? So the militant prayers is what it is. In full faith, you understand? Come against these unclean spirits because you got authority over.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Bind them up and tell them they got to go. You know, and like you say, the imagination, that's how I be.
Yeah.
I be imagining the Most High boy sending legions of angels.
Right.
You understand? So we'll surround us with walls of fire, mark our doorways and windows, guard us from evil seen and unseen.
Right.
Send forth your weapons of mass destruction.
Right.
Every angel of war under your command.
Exactly. Most High gave you that for a reason.
Yeah.
You definitely got to
Yeah, be hostile toward these devils.
Mm-hmm.
Because they together. They pray at certain times. They unleashing viruses and plagues. Man, look, we pray against them.
Right.
How about that? From the right hand, from the seat of Messiah, from the right hand of the Heavenly Father.
Right.
You understand? May the Most High honor all prayer requests in these hours.
Right.
You know, the Most High one is healed, not sick, man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Thanks.
Living not dead.
That's right, huh?
Yeah. Life.
That's right.
Stop till you eat now.
You hear me?
All praise and glory now. Don't stop you, Enoch. All right, y'all. We ain't got nothing else. We about to get on up out of here. Sit on back. Emma said the Enoch calendar. You can download it off the Honor and Humility STL Facebook group page.
I'm writing a story, a little short story. I'm going to say it.
Yeah, you already know, huh? You know, it's all good. Love to hear how the Most High dealing with you. All right, y'all. To the next time. Peace, love, light, healing, and balance.
Yeah.
And balance is one thing Israel's missing. Balance. Peace, love, light, healing, and balance. To the faithful elect, don't stop till you eat not.
Y'all.
Don't stop till we see y'all. Y'all. Ooh-wee. Say somebody say they don't have Facebook. Email, post your, what's your email? Post your email so you can email them one. Bro, say he ain't got Facebook.
I don't need it. I just be getting you text and you throw it on YouTube.
All right, there you go. Israelite blood. There go the email right there. I'm put it up in case you don't see it. Email right there, and she'll make sure you get it. All right. Email, she'll make sure you get it. A lot of that revelation coming out of that too, man. It's a lot of brothers I've been bumping into it, like, yeah, I've been seeing that about that 364 days, like it makes sense. So the only thing about anything about calendars and all that is all theoretical until you actually live through it. Past 16 years, I've been on what they call the Israelite calendar or the Jewish calendar. So I've witnessed the disrupting of the years, the adding of a 13th month. It did the Enoch calendar is 364 days, and the days don't shift. And it line up with Enoch and the calendar that he got in Book of Enoch, the first Book of Enoch, chapter 71, I think it is on in. It goes through the portals, the sun and the moon rise and set through for 30 days this time, 31 days this month, 31 days. You feel me? And all come out 364. All right, so we on that now, and you know we'll just see how it's supposed to be consistent. So we're gonna see how consistent it is. Think about any type of calendar, you gotta have the experience, right? So I haven't been on it a year to see, you dig? But we on it now. We gonna see. You know, what I have been on is what most Israelites use, and I've personally seen the 13th months added, and, you know what I mean, and barley crops ain't, people say the barley ain't counted yet in Israel, and all type of stuff. You know what I mean? I've seen it. I've seen us have to make up extra months and different days to coincide with the seasons. All right. So I mean that's just being real.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So y'all got email. Y'all go ahead and get at her. If you don't got the Enoch calendar, that look like that's the calendar we're gonna be going with. You know what I mean? Let's get it done. All praise glory now to the Most High. We about her out of Yah. Shalom. Yes, sir.